Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
And now for something completely different.
Live from London, this is BBC News. Britain's former Prime Minister Boris
What's the date today? December the... What is the date today? Yeah, it's December the 7th, 2023. And the world is upside down. Situation not normal, all effed up. Politics on fire. Stay with me. We've got quite a show ahead.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So what you just saw was a BBC news anchor flipping off. I think it was just aimed at the camera, but it went out live. I don't think she realized she was on the air. That was Mariam Moshiri. And she gave the middle finger to the camera as they were going live to air. It was seen by millions and millions of people. And now a couple more right here on Maverick News. And I thought, hey, why not start the broadcast with that tonight? It just seems appropriate, doesn't it? She said, I was pretending to count down as the director was counting me down from 10 to 0, including the fingers to show the number. So from 10 fingers held up to 1. And when I got to 1, I turned the finger around as a joke and did not realize that this would be caught on camera. Anyway, it's resulted in a bit of an uproar internationally. In my time, before me sitting here doing this, who am I to talk? We had FU Fridays for a while, right? And I said, okay, we'll do it. We'll have people let off a little steam. The internet's a different animal, though. Mainstream media, you don't do stuff like that. There was a news anchor at a local station who used the F word accidentally once. Cost her job. Not a station I worked at. It was a competing station, but it cost her job. Oh, What a time we live in. She apologized, this BBC news anchor. And by tomorrow, everyone will forget about it because everything else out there is so weird and toxic. I'll tell you, the politics right now, I have never seen politics so volatile, so toxic. Not in my lifetime. I'm beginning to think that maybe just prior to World War II, there was something similar going on. Maybe prior to World War I, in its own way, given the state of technology and media at the time. But man, this is politics on fire right now. Just absolutely on fire. Did you see the GOP debate last night? No, because you were watching this. I didn't watch it, not the whole thing, not last night. But Vivek Ramaswamy was on fire and just lobbing balls of fire. Great balls of fire. Nikki Haley. Oh, he scored big time last night at Nikki Haley's expense. Did he ever? Ooh, baby. Oh, toxic, volatile. You know, at first it looked like maybe she was getting some sympathy, but I don't think it worked out that good for her at the end. I think he just destroyed her. This is a compilation of Vivek Ramaswamy highlights from last night's GOP debate. This guy, telling you, he's well positioned to be Trump's running mate. And if Trump doesn't survive, if he is not ultimately the candidate because of all the leak problems that he's running into, I would say Vivek Ramaswamy is quite possibly the heir apparent to the nomination, because DeSantis has not quite lived up to his promise. Chris Christie, kind of a also ran, like who really cares? And Nikki Haley, ooh, she has some backing from, I would say, the war hawks and the military industrial complex. But Vivek just kind of drove a stake through her heart last night. Check this out.
Nikki, you were bankrupt when you left the UN. After you left the UN, you became a military contractor. You actually started joining service on the board of Boeing, whose back you scratched for a very long time, and then gave foreign multinational speeches like Hillary Clinton is. And now you're a multimillionaire. That math does not add up. It adds up to the fact that you are corrupt. Identity politics. This new religion that says your race, your gender, and your sexuality are your identity. It is anti-American. It is meritocratic. It's anti-meritocratic, and it is dividing this country to a breaking point. But it's even worse when Republicans try to play the same game. And Nikki Haley's campaign launch video sounded like a woke Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light ad talking about how she would kick in heels. At the first debate, she said that only a woman can get this job done. That's what she said. After the third debate, when I criticized Ronna McDaniel after 5 failed years of leadership of this party and criticized Nikki for her corrupt foreign dealings as a military contractor, she said that I have a woman problem. Nikki, I don't have a woman problem. You have a corruption problem. And I think that that's what people need to know. Nikki is corrupt. This is a woman who will send your kids to die so she can buy a bigger house. This is the problem. Using identity politics more effectively than Kamala Harris is a form of intellectual fraud. And it actually needs to end. There's our donor puppet masters wielding their puppet right up here tonight. This is how this game is played. The puppet masters put up their puppet, and I reject the use of identity politics in this party. It has been a cancer coming from the left, And I'm sick and tired of the double standards. The people of this country are too. Having 2 X chromosomes does not immunize you from criticism. Foreign policy experience is not the same as foreign policy wisdom. I was the first person to say we need a reasonable peace deal in Ukraine. Now a lot of the neocons are quietly coming along to that position, with the exceptions of Nikki Haley and Joe Biden, who still support this, what I believe is pointless war in Ukraine. And I think those with foreign policy experience, one thing that Joe Biden and Nikki Haley have in common is that neither of them could even state for you 3 provinces in eastern Ukraine that they want to send our troops to actually fight for. Look at that. This is what I want people to understand. These people have, I mean, she has no idea what the hell the names of those provinces are, but she wants to send our sons and daughters and our troops and our military equipment to go fight it. So reject this myth that they've been selling you, that somebody had a cup of coffee stint at the UN and then makes $8 million after, has real foreign policy experience. It takes an outsider to see this through. Look at the blank expression. She doesn't know the names of the provinces that she wants to actually fight for. And there's her puppet masters right there, the donors right there that are playing about the puppet masters.
Hold on.
First of all, Chris Christie also doesn't know what provinces in eastern Ukraine he actually wants us to fight for. Chris, your version of foreign policy experience was closing a bridge from New Jersey to New York.
Yeah.
So do everybody a favor, just walk yourself off that stage, enjoy a nice meal, and get the hell out of this race.
let me
When
tell you.
it comes to Nikki, all 3 of them have been licking Donald Trump's boots for years for money and endorsements. Ron DeSantis, you've been a great governor, but you would have never been one without actually begging Donald Trump for that endorsement.
And you attacked him in
for
your
Nikki
book
Haley.
a year ago.
Same thing with Chris Christie as a lobbyist, begging them for COVID money for his special interests in New Jersey, prepping him for the debates last time around. The real enemy is not Donald Trump. It's not even Joe Biden. It is the deep state that at least Donald Trump attempted to take on. And if you want somebody who's going to speak truth to power, then vote for somebody who's going to speak the truth to you. Why am I the only person on the stage, at least, who can say that January 6th now does look like it was an inside job, that the government lied to us for 20 years about Saudi Arabia's involvement in 9/11, that the Great Replacement theory is not some grand right-wing conspiracy theory, but a basic statement of the Democratic Party's platform, that the 2020 election was indeed stolen by big tech, that the 2016 election, the one that Trump won for sure, was also one that was stolen from him by the national security establishment that actually put up the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that they knew was false. There's a reason why I'm the only person on the stage who can say these things. That's what it's going to take, not people who are licking his boots one time and now Monday morning quarterbacking and criticizing him when it's convenient. Transgenderism is a mental health disorder. We don't let you smoke a cigarette by the age of 18. We don't let you have an addictive drink of alcohol by the age of 21. And I just challenge Ron DeSantis to go one step further and support what I think is clearly within the authority to do, using federal funds just like Reagan did in '84 for the Highway Act that said the minimum drinking age needs to be 21. We can do the same thing when it comes to banning genital mutilation or chemical castration. I know Ron's been unclear about that on the federal level. I'm crystal clear. That's where I stand.
Got it.
That's a mental health disorder. That's where we need to be at.
Go ahead.
This climate change agenda that is shackling this country like a set of handcuffs. I said it at the first debate and I stand by it. The climate change agenda is a hoax because it has nothing to do with the climate. That's what we have to see. 98% reduction in the climate disaster-related deaths in the last century. 8 times as many people are going to die of cold temperatures this year than warm ones. Yet against that backdrop, there's an issue coming up in Iowa. It's core to Iowa farmers. I met Kim Junker, Kathy Stockdale, and other farmers who are about to have a carbon capture pipeline built across their land using eminent domain to do it. That's unconstitutional and it's wrong. And if you thought COVID was bad, what's coming with this climate agenda is far worse. We should not be bending the knee to this new religion. That is what it is. It is a substitute for a modern religion. We are flogging ourselves and losing our modern way of life, bowing to this new god of climate, and that will end on my watch.
And that was from the Daily Caller. Great compilation. And man, was he on fire or what? Wow. Poor old Nikki Haley. She was taking the brunt of that. I don't know. She was gaining a little bit of ground there, but I think he just took it all away. Wow. I'll tell you, that was quite a show. That was quite a show. And then Vivek Ramaswamy comes off the back of that and ends up on Fox and Friends. Here he is. Come on. And here's what he had to say on FNF. FNF, not the Fast and the Furious, Fox and Friends. Fox and Friends. Here he is. Okay, Vivek, take it away.
Are you comfortable giving up Eastern Europe? Because you know they're already taking Moldova, already making moves on the Baltic already. They're taking more and more pieces of Georgia. And all we've done is sit there and send blankets and MREs, and we got an invasion. So what is going to be next?
Because we have no idea how Ukraine has spent $200 billion of our money. We're forking over more taxpayer money.
Do you see how they fight? These guys are the best fighters in the world.
I'm not going to stand for that.
Ukrainians are probably the best fighters in the world.
Ukraine is not some democracy.
Ukraine is fighting for their sovereignty. And they were invaded.
The news media has reported. Ukraine has actually assassinated a former presidential candidate from 2019.
So naive.
The media doesn't like to report that.
So naive.
Well,
you give up Ukraine, and then in a few years you'll be criticizing Joe Biden for giving up Ukraine.
I respectfully, we can respectfully, Brian, I think that if I called Nikki Haley naive, you guys would be having a conniption. Let's be honest about that. But you want to call me naive? I actually understand what the heck I'm talking about here.
Really?
Nixon did this in 1972. We can actually split up the Russia-China alliance
and what
advance
happened?
American interests.
I think
and protect
World War
our
II
homeland.
is your better example.
I think it is offensive.
World War II is your better example. One is a diplomatic approach and one is an active war.
Germany. If you could have split up Japan and Germany, then I do think that you actually have a good example of World War II.
You were going to convince Hitler not to go with a fascist nation?
And I'm not talking about convincing anybody, Brian, but the fact of the matter is I think it is offensive that people would sooner use $200 billion of our resources to protect some other nation's foreign border that's not a democracy, when in fact we're not even doing that effectively.
You can do both. It's not either or.
We're doing neither.
It's neither. It's not either or.
And that's the fact of the matter.
He's got the right balance there. He's got the narrative down. He's just got those arguments finely tuned and properly balanced so that they are, he's positioning himself against the Biden policies on especially foreign affairs, on the foreign affairs portfolios. And he's walking that fine line, that tightrope, where he's maintaining his autonomy as a contender for the nomination, while at the same time showing that he still has support for Donald Trump. So he's not alienating the MAGA base or Donald Trump himself, not being critical of Trump, but being critical of his opponents. Being pro-America, while at the same time finding that just the right words to show that he doesn't have to be confrontational with adversaries like Russia, where you can still extend an olive branch, find common ground maybe, and find a path to peace, while still taking on the issues that confront the nation with regard to the military-industrial complex, corruption, foreign influence. He's got the words, man. That was skillful. I am impressed. But the mood of the nation has never been more volatile. It's never been more toxic. Politics has become so nasty. I mean, as balanced as he was vicious. Fair, but vicious. And you could see that the other three on the stage were standing there like deer caught in the headlights. Especially Nikki Haley. And DeSantis, man, that guy nervous. Oh man, live, I'm telling you, he didn't know what to do. And he tried there to kind of throw a barb back at Ramaswamy at one point, but no, Ramaswamy was on a roll. He was killing it last night. And then this was a highlight from Nikki Haley, who has been, as I said, gaining ground, but I don't know, she's going to have to do a little bit better than this.
We really do need to ban TikTok once and for all. And let me tell you why. For every 30 minutes that someone watches TikTok, every day, they become 17% more anti-Semitic, more pro-Hamas based on doing that. We now know that 50% of adults 18 to 25 think that Hamas was warranted in what they did with Israel. That's a problem. When campuses also don't go and protect when they have these rallies and you've got students that are scared, we need to go to these universities and say, if you're not going to protect these students, if you're not going to acknowledge anti-Semitism, we'll take your tax exempt status away. That'll fix it and that'll take care of it.
So she's now pro-censorship. Liking her less and less every day. I get that there's a PR war on and maybe you don't agree, but censorship isn't really quite the right answer. Even if you have political opponents posting stuff that you just don't like. Anyway, man, like, oh, Ramaswamy on fire at that GOP debate, gaining a lot of ground and doing it right, man. I'm telling you. Now, Trump, not there, but he was like the elephant not in the room, right? So everything still comes back to him. Still, obviously, the front runner. It's still his to lose, and he could lose it, not fairly again, but he could lose it on the legal side. He is challenging. Where is it here? Got to get these notes up. He's appealing the court ruling on his assertion that he should be immune from prosecution. Okay, let's bring this up here. This will help us. Here's the NBC News version of this. It's being reported widely tonight. Trump appeals ruling denying his immunity claims in his federal election interference case. Says, former President Donald Trump filed a notice Thursday indicating that he will appeal a ruling that he does not have immunity from prosecution in his federal election case that's set to go to trial in March. Judge Tanya Chutkan, who's presiding over the election interference case against the former president, ruled against Trump last Friday, denying his motion to dismiss his D.C. indictment on presidential immunity and constitutional grounds. Chutkan said the former president did not have absolute immunity from prosecution for actions taken in his role as president. So now there was a separate filing, and Trump's lawyers have requested a pause on all further proceedings in the case until his appeal is resolved. They're going to take this all the way to the Supreme Court, but time is running out. And this is a big liability for Trump. I don't know where it will end up. I'm just not sure how much weight to give this, but it shows you that, as we get closer and closer and closer to the presidential election, things are going to heat up even more on the lawfare side and just in the political arena in general. And you're going to see Again, just absolute chaos on the streets. It's a coming. It is coming. Because it is, you can see both sides just digging in, like they're digging their trenches and getting ready for warfare. And soon they will all run out of the trenches and confront each other in political no man's land. And it'll be no holds barred, bloody political warfare like we've never seen before. I really believe that, because it is toxic out there. Absolutely toxic. And the language, the rhetoric that we are hearing all the way around is, to me, kind of disturbing. I don't know if I've got this here or not. Yeah, let me take a little break here. I had another clip that I wanted to run for you. So let me just share this with you, and then we'll come back, and hopefully I'll have that. In any event, we will be moving forward on the other side of this.
Jingle bells. Trudeau smells. Biden laid an egg. Klaus Schwab's deal has no appeal. But tomorrow is a brand new day. Hey everyone. Have a merry Maverick Christmas. And a magnificent new year.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now, at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program. For your mind.
Okay, well, I'm not going to run the clip, because if I were to run the clip, it would probably cause problems on the censorship side. So I'm just going to kind of tell you what was said. And it was a clip with Steve Bannon. And I mean, they were saying with Kash Patel that they are coming for Trump's opponents. Like, this is the kind of talk, right? It's like, we're coming for you. We are coming, and we've got the receipts, and we're going to, we're going to charge you, and we're going to come after you legally. And these guys have an axe to grind. Do they not? Of course they do. They've been hauled in front of judges and thrown in the slammer and detained, and it's been constant lawfare since Trump came down that escalator. And it just keeps getting ramped up and ramped up and ramped up and ramped up. And the allegations of, shenanigans, elections shenanigans, a lot of that, it really kind of, it's at the heart of all of this, isn't it? 2016, Ramaswamy. Okay. Again, striking just the right tone to appeal to those Republican voters. Making reference to the 2016 election, to the Russia collusion scandal. Giving his take on that. All of his talking points in line. And it comes down to that 2020 election, right? Like, I have to say, I had never seen anything quite like it. And yet they were sitting there saying, oh, it's just normal. With all these delays and shutting down the counting in the middle of the night and having it carrying on into the days that came after the election. No, I've never seen anything quite like that. I mean, there were the hanging chads in that previous election and things like that. And you can go all the way back to the controversies surrounding Kennedy Nixon. Did Kennedy steal that election? Controversies like that. I mean, it's always been there, but not this toxic. This is crazy off the charts kind of toxic. This is the new normal. Situation not normal. All effed up. And that whole thing with, that election in 2020, that's at the heart of everything here, isn't it? All the chaos, the turmoil, the QAnon angst. It's all about whether Trump is or is not the president. Some people believe he is, and people on the other side say he isn't. And it's just been going on and on, back and forth ever since. Mainstream media, just Biden's the president. And then you've got the other side. People are passionate about it. And who's the traitor? Who's the patriot? Who's loyal? Who isn't? Who's pro-America? Who's corrupt? Who cheated? Who didn't? Did they cheat? Didn't they cheat? This is at the question. This is this at the heart of everything. And we're heading into this next election, and it is for all the marbles. I think John was calling in the other night, and he said, Russia has the most powerful military in the world. Maybe, but I don't think so. The U.S. has more soldiers, more troops, more ships. I think Russia's military is actually only about in terms of troop size, I think they're only about 5th in the world. But they do have those hypersonic missiles. Lots of, but the bottom line is, this is for control of a nuclear power on the dawn of a new artificial intelligence age. Who wants to control one of the most powerful countries on the face of the planet? A superpower, maybe the most powerful country in the world. Who wants to control that? What lengths wouldn't some groups, organizations go to take control of that nuclear arsenal and the artificial intelligence technology that comes along with that? Not to mention the economy, such as it is. I think people would go to any lengths, do anything to get control of that power, because that's what it's about. Power. You get the power, you automatically get the money. Lawfare, oh yeah, and more, and more. And it's going on around the world. It's going on in all these Western countries. That's why Canada is in play. Canada is right there on the doorstep of the United States of America. You don't think foreign governments want to control Canada, a country that sits right on the doorstep of the USA? Of course. They want to have as much influence there as possible. Not to mention control of the resources, possibly. Yeah. Why wouldn't they? We're seeing tons of absolute hard, concrete evidence of foreign influence in the Canadian political system. Paper trails, money. It's all there. It is all there. And it isn't just Canada as a nation, it's First Nations nations within Canada too. Okay? Canada's Assembly of First Nations has just elected a new national chief. Her name is Cindy Woodhouse. And when we come back, we'll tell you all about that. And we'll show you how the language coming from Cindy Woodhouse is very similar to what I heard from Steve Bannon, but it's just kind of focused in a different way.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarmingly, some media simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
In an ocean of lies a century deep, the truth awaits. Choose not the red pill. Choose not the blue pill. For both are an illusion. Discover the power of M. The power of individuality. We are mavericks, we are the way to the light. Fear not the storm. Join our quest for truth. Truth will set you free. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so the Assembly of First Nations has a new chief, Cindy Woodhouse. And have this video queued up here of her speaking after her victory. But I want you to listen very carefully to the language being used, to the words. It is uncompromising. It is, I would say, very hard line. It is absolutely in keeping with the tone of politics today. She says, Canada, we are coming for you. Those are hard words. Canada, we are coming for you. This at a time when Canada and the United States, Western countries, are all under the cloud of anti-colonialism, woke politics. Not that I like that word woke that much, but for lack of a better description at the moment, cultural Marxism. Identity politics. Couple that with the impact of the new United Nations Declaration of Rights for Indigenous Peoples and the legal ramifications of that. Combine that with the additional legislation that the Canadian government has imposed upon itself, making UNDRIP binding, where on other nations it is actually not, but in Canada it is, because the Canadian government under Trudeau has made UNDRIP binding, compulsory, which is why there's an amplified requirement now for all governments to involve First Nations in all kinds of decision making, while there's a parallel legal system being developed for First Nations peoples, which, a lot of these things are not bad. But when you listen to the language that I'm about to roll for you, this is uncompromising, and there is more than just a land claim here. This is Cindy Woodhouse saying that all the land belongs to First Nations, not just in Canada, but in all of Turtle Island. All of Turtle Island belongs to Indians. And you know that Turtle Island includes Canada, the United States, Mexico, all the way down, right? It's all the continent and more. Watch this clip.
Documents like that are so important, that we acknowledge our traditional territories, because every piece of square inch in this country and across Turtle Island is Indian land.
Did you hear that? Every square inch is Indian land. Now, you can interpret that in a variety of ways at this point, I would say, but those are strong, strong words, uncompromising. This is not the kind of language that lends itself to honoring treaties in Canada, and the history in the United States is a bit different, but it doesn't lend itself, I don't think, to honoring treaties. This is reclaiming land. This is language that suggests to me that they want total control of all the land. No, but I get it. You could interpret it in a bit of a different way, saying maybe soften it up, but it doesn't sound very conciliatory. It doesn't sound like it's very uncompromising. Don't give an inch. Even later.
I'd like to thank so many, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. And first and foremost, I want to thank the candidates. You know, when you're in an election like this, you spend days with each other and you become family. But I'm happy that today, David and I had a long discussion last night. We had a long discussion this morning. And of course, our National Chief, Joanna Bernard, and we came together in a good way, because we have to work for you. We can't, this isn't about us. I had a call from Vancouver's east side from somebody very dear to me. And they called and they said, is the election done yet? And this is somebody that's homeless and on our streets in Vancouver's east side. And they're watching what we're doing here right now. And those are the people that we have to stand up and fight for. And so Canada, if you're listening, to Canada and to Canadians, we need your support. You have to work with First Nations people in a good way. We are here in a good way. I've been raised like that from my father, and the teachings of my mother, that we have to work with all people. But at the same time, there's a point where if you don't listen to our people, and you don't listen to our chiefs, you don't answer them, then there's problems. And so to Canada, we're coming for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In fact, Bannon, I think it was Bannon, it might have been Kash Patel, in their address, they warned Trump's opponents and the people who have been targeting MAGA on the Democrat side. They used the exact same words, "We're coming for you." They literally said that. And Trump himself has been using rhetoric like that too for his political opponents. And that has triggered people on the left and the Democrats. They've lost their freaking minds. They're petrified of him now. Not that they weren't petrified of him before, but even more now for using those exact kind of words. Petrified. they're afraid that if he gets elected again, he will follow through this time. I wouldn't be surprised. They've come after him so hard. And his supporters, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he started rounding people up and started throwing them in the slammer. But that is why it is situation not normal, all effed up. Because it is so hard line. Things are becoming so extreme. And that kind of rhetoric can lead to very dark places very quickly. Even though I'm not sure that anybody using that kind of language really intends for it to go to a place like that. But you can see how in history prior to this, it has in the past. So words are important. I do hear conciliatory language in here, and it sounds like she wants to work with the Canadian government and reach common ground, and that sounds all very positive. But then it's also coupled with those phrases, right? We're Canada, we're coming for you, which can be alarming. And every square inch is Indian land. What does that mean exactly? We've seen other interpretations of that, especially over the past year that we've explored right here on this program. And I don't know. With so many people just wanting to tear the whole government down, I think that there might be a lot of support for that, even in this room right here. Just get rid of the government. And yet, I don't really hear anybody exactly explaining what would replace it exactly. And that is where the real danger lies. Because if you tear down what we have, it creates a political vacuum. And what comes in, what gets sucked into that vacuum? Usually, if you have some sort of a revolution or uprising or an unceremonious dumping of a system in any particular country, what comes in to fill the void? It's usually worse. And I would submit that First Nations are really protected by the treaties that are already in place under this colonial system. Keeping in mind that it was First Nations themselves that, in many respects, helped to build this because they fought alongside the British in some cases, or the French. They fought against the Americans. War of 1812. They helped build this nation. And they have nations, their own nations within a nation. And it's those agreements that have allowed us to live the way we've been living and keep improving upon that over time. It's certainly not perfect. And the Canadian government certainly has not lived up to its obligations, in my view. So there's a lot more work to be done there. But man, you take that all away, what comes in to fill that void? Would it just be the First Nations that then would assume control, or would it be some other political system? What do we get? And then what happens to those treaties, those agreements? Just because, don't assume, folks, that if the system is torn down, that automatically, because the First Nations peoples were here first, that they would automatically assume control. I doubt it. I think if the system gets torn down, something else comes in. Something else. And I'm not so sure it would be nearly as accommodating to people with alternative views or people, or even First Nations peoples. I'm getting a little bit tired, honestly, of the, Canada's bad. The United States is all bad. It's all bad. It's all bad. It's all evil. No, actually, there's a lot of good. There's a whole lot of good all the way around, and some bad, but more good than bad. More good than bad. And a lot to be proud of. And it's worth fighting for. To get it back. For everybody. And make it better. Make it better than it was and keep on making it better because it ain't perfect. So, I hear a mix of language, rhetoric there from the new chief, and that's cool. I just hope that it results in positive change, and I think that she seems like a reasonable lady, but it's those words, they keep creeping into politics on all sides. I keep hearing the same kind of rhetoric all the way around, and it is, especially on the U.S. side, it is going to ramp up. And you think, oh man, Canada is not immune. You wait till the next election. Trudeau, we've seen the anger in the streets directed at him. If he hangs on to the leadership and carries the party, the Liberal Party, into that next election, oh my, you ain't seen nothing yet. You will see so much anger in the streets. You will see demonstrations beyond a fever pitch. It will be politics on fire in the streets, and they will be spitting fire at Justin Trudeau at every whistle stop. Guaranteed. It'll be brutal. Politics like Canada has never seen before, because it will be situation not normal, all effed up. It's the new normal, and it ain't normal. Because people are so pissed off on the one side, and so afraid and jacked up on the other side, and so full of virtue, and so convinced that they are also on the right side of history, yet diametrically opposed. You just wait. Coming year is going to be one heck of a roller coaster ride, man. Since 2016 especially, we've seen a lot of negative stuff in politics, but nothing like what is about to come. Nothing. And if Trump isn't allowed to run, that's just going to fuel even more potentially violence in the streets, as we've seen in the past. If anything happens to him, that'll just blow the lid off the country. In many respects, we're already in kind of a civil war of sorts, not the kind of civil war where people are squaring off with, muskets and cannons, but an information war, a culture war, a political war, and politics in this secular society that we are in has really become kind of like a religion for so many people. Not kind of, it is a religion. It has replaced religion. That is what has come in to fill the void for so many people who have lost touch with the church or their religion of whatever flavor they might have subscribed to. Politics is the new religion. And politics and religion make for a very volatile combination, especially when they clash in the streets. Spit and fire. Take another quick break. Be right back. It's time to exile the lights and
Exile. The Knights of Malta. Maverick News. Join us. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so immigration, that's another big hot button issue, right? So let's go over to the UK where Rishi Sunak, UK leader Rishi Sunak, addressing the issue of immigration over there. Listen to what he's saying. This is, we've seen a flood of people, constant flood, more just in the last day or so, like unprecedented numbers down on the southern US border. We're seeing massive waves of immigration coming into Canada, all the Western countries being flooded. And then we get this from Rishi Sunak over in the UK.
Will upset some people, and you will hear a lot of criticism about it. So it's right to explain why I've decided to do this. I'm the child of immigrants. I understand why some people take the risk of...
There's new legislation to limit immigration, he says.
It's because the United Kingdom is an incredible country. It offers opportunity, hope, and safety. But the difference is, my family came here legally. Like most immigrants, they integrated into local communities, worked hard to provide for their family, built lives and businesses, found friends and neighbors. And most of all, they were really proud to become British. That feeling of pride, it cascades down the generations and grows. And that's why you see so many children of immigrants sitting around the cabinet table. But it's not a given. Illegal immigration undermines not just our border controls, it undermines the very sense of fairness that is so central to our national character. We play by the rules. We put in our fair share. We wait our turn. Now, if some people can just cut all of that out, you've not just lost control of your borders, you fatally undermine the very fairness upon which trust in our system is based. That's why this legislation is so necessary, to deliver an effective deterrent to those who wish to come here illegally, to restore people's trust that the system is fair, and ultimately to stop the boats. And so our bill today fundamentally addresses the Supreme Court's concerns over the safety of Rwanda. I did not agree with that judgment, but I respect it. That is why we have spent the last 3 weeks working tirelessly to respond to their concerns and to guarantee Rwanda's safety in a new, legally binding international treaty. The Supreme Court were clear that they were making a judgment about Rwanda at a specific moment 18 months ago, and that the problems could be remedied, confirming that they have been, and that unequivocally Rwanda is a safe country. And today's bill also ends the merry-go-round of legal challenges that have blocked our policy for far too long. We simply cannot have a situation where our ability to control our borders and stop people taking perilous journeys across the Channel is held up in endless litigation in our courts. So this bill gives Parliament the chance to put Rwanda's safety beyond question in the eyes of this country's law. Parliament is sovereign. It should be able to make decisions that cannot be undone in the courts. And it was never the intention of international human rights laws to stop a sovereign parliament removing illegal migrants to a country that is considered safe in both parliamentary statute and international law. So the bill does include what are known as notwithstanding clauses. These mean that our domestic courts will no longer be able to use any domestic or international law, including the Human Rights Act, to stop us removing illegal migrants. Let me just go through the ways that individual illegal migrants try.
So this is about Rwanda and an asylum policy and massive immigration coming into the UK. And so he is saying that as the Conservative leader and leader of the UK, they have passed new legislation, or tried to, to address the immigration issue and even deport some people. And it was challenged in the courts. They lost. So they're shoring that up. And then he's backed into a real corner here because he's under pressure from the public. He's also under pressure from within his own party. Even as a conservative, he's facing challenges from within. He could lose the leadership. So he's between a rock and a hard place here, and he's trying to balance this thing off against the electorate that is split like it is everywhere between people who don't want so much immigration, and then you've got the woke side on the other side, and it just goes on. So he's trying to find a balance here. He's playing politics instead of just doing really what needs to be done. Because we're going to go on here and you listen to what he says and then listen to the numbers that he's making reference to here. And then you tell me if this guy is really serious about this or not.
And stay. Claiming asylum, that's now blocked. Abuse of our modern slavery rules, blocked. The idea that Rwanda isn't safe, blocked. The risk of being sent to some other country, blocked. And spurious human rights claims, you'd better believe that we've blocked those too, because we're completely disapplying all the relevant sections of the Human Rights Act. And not only have we blocked all of these ways that illegal migrants will try and stay, we've also blocked their ability to try and stay by bringing a judicial review on any of those grounds. That means that this bill blocks every single reason that has ever been used to prevent flights to Rwanda from taking off. The only extremely narrow exception will be that if you can prove with credible and compelling evidence that you specifically have a real and imminent risk of serious and irreversible harm. We have to recognize that as a matter of law. And if we didn't, we'd undermine the treaty we've just signed with Rwanda. As the Rwandans themselves have made clear, if we go any further, the entire scheme will collapse. And there is no point having a bill with nowhere to send people to. But I'm telling you now, we have set the bar so high that it will be vanishingly rare for anyone to meet it. And once you have been removed, you will be banned for life from traveling to the UK, settling here, or becoming a citizen. But of course, even with this new law here at home, we could still face challenges from the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. So let me repeat what I said 2 weeks ago. I will not allow a foreign court to block these flights. If the Strasbourg court chooses to intervene against the express wishes of our sovereign parliament, I will do what is necessary to get flights off. And today's new laws already make clear that the decision on whether to comply with interim measures issued by the European Court is a decision for British government ministers and British government ministers alone. Because it is your government, not criminal gangs or indeed foreign courts, who decides who comes here and who stays in our country. Now, of course, our Rwanda policy is just one part of our wider strategy to stop the boats. And that strategy is working. I've been Prime Minister for just over a year now, and for the first time, small boat arrivals here are down by a third, even as illegal crossings in the Mediterranean have soared by 80%. Let me just repeat that. Small boat arrivals here are down by a third. To help achieve that, we've signed returns and cooperation agreements with France, Bulgaria, Turkey, Italy, and Georgia. Illegal working raids are up nearly 70%. 50 hotels are being returned to their local communities, and we are housing people in a new barge and in former military sites. The initial asylum backlog is down from 92,000 to less than 20,000. We've returned over 22,000 illegal migrants. And as our deal with Albania shows, deterrence works. Last year, a third of all those arriving in small boats were Albanian. This year, we've returned 5,000 people and cut those arrivals by 90%. And Albanian arrivals have far more recourse to the courts than anyone under this new legislation. That's why I'm so confident that this bill will work. Lord Sumption, the former Supreme Court judge, believes this bill will work. We will get flights off the ground, we will deter illegal migrants from coming here, and we will finally stop the boats. Thank you. We turn some questions from the media. Can we start with the BBC?
Thank you, Prime Minister. Chris Mason, BBC News. Are you saying to your MPs bluntly on all of this, back me or sack me?
What I'm saying, not just to my MPs, but the entire country, is that I share their frustration. Right? My patience with this has worn thin. Right? One of my 5 priorities at the beginning of the year was to stop the boats, and I'm pleased that we've made progress.
Let me put this in a little bit of perspective for you. He's talking about 22,000 returned. Then he says 5,000 returned. I believe those were Albanians. Maybe 100,000 in total affected by all of this. So last year, 1.2 million migrated to Britain. The overwhelming majority of those, about 960,000, maybe 970,000, came from outside the EU. The top 5 places that the migrants came from and continue to come from: India, Nigeria, China, Pakistan, Ukraine. And I expect probably Palestine over the course of the coming year as well now. So we'll change a little bit that way. But if you have 1.2 million people, and we're talking about what, a total of maybe 80 or 90,000 who were affected so far by his policies, how much of an impact is that really having? And will it be more substantial in the year ahead? This is, I think, a reflection of everything going on in Western countries right now, where you have someone who's a conservative standing up saying that they're trying to do something about this immigration flood. And maybe he is, but for whatever reason, whether it's because he's not really trying or because the court system is creating obstacles, I don't know. I'm not British, and I'm not familiar enough with British politics, honestly, to sit here and with great intelligence analyze this. But I'm listening to his rhetoric on the one side where he's trying to sell this legislation, and then I'm listening to the numbers, and it just doesn't equate for me. It doesn't sound to me like it's really making that much of a difference. I heard just within the last day that in the coming year, there are some who are claiming that in the US, they could have as many as 15 million people enter the country this coming year illegally. 15 million people. It almost seems like it's all proportional and maybe even planned to some degree, because if you look at what Canada is bringing in with a country of 40 million, we're taking in about 1 million to 1.5 million this coming year. In the US, where they have over 300 million population, it's about 15 million. You look at the UK, 1.2 million. It's like the amounts coming in almost seem proportional. It seems like it's controlled chaos to me, as though somebody is choreographing all of this stuff.
Down by 1/3. For the first ever time, by the way. That shows that our plan is working, but we've got more to do. And that's why this legislation is so important. We've got to end the legal merry-go-round that has blocked us from getting our Rwanda scheme up and running. That's what this legislation does. That's what the new treaty that the Home Secretary signed this week does. And it will mean unequivocally that Rwanda is safe and there should be no more blocks to our ability to get people on planes and send them to Rwanda, because that is critical. We must have a deterrent that says, if you come here illegally, you cannot stay and you will be removed. And when we can get that up and running, as we have with Albania, we will see the numbers come down. I'm absolutely committed to seeing this through, because I share the British people's frustration. It's patently unfair what is happening at the moment, which is why it requires action like this that is novel, that is contentious, but that's what we're about. We're about getting stuff done on the things that matter. This matters, and we're going to make sure that we deliver. Next, can I turn to ITV?
Prime Minister, you've made clear that stopping the votes is one of your biggest promises to voters, and you're also telling us this legislation is the way to do it. So can I ask you, will next week's vote be treated as a vote of confidence in your government, and will you throw Conservative MPs out of the party if they defy you?
You don't know, but what this vote is about confidence in Parliament, to demonstrate that it gets the British people's frustration. I get it. I'm acting on it. So actually the real question when it comes to all these votes is for the Labour Party, because I want to get this legislation on the statute books as quickly as possible. That's what we're all about. We've moved at record pace since the judgment to get the treaty, to get the bill introduced. So the question now is the Labour Party, because we've got but we've got a plan, right? We've got a plan to pass this legislation, and I want to pass it quickly, right? But I'm not hearing from anyone else that they've got a plan. Right. So the real question when it comes to Parliament, question for all of you to ask is, what are the Labour Party going to do about this vote? What are they going to do about this legislation? Because we've got a clear plan to stop the boats. Deterrence is a critical part of it. There is no way to stop people coming here unless you have a deterrent that means they will be sent somewhere else. It's as simple as that. This is our deterrent, and we are doing everything we can to get it on the statute books and get it up and running. So the question for votes in Parliament is, what is the Labour Party's plan, and are they going to back this legislation? Next, can we go to Sky?
Thank you. Prime Minister, do you see the reality of what is happening here? You've lost control of your party, and this has become a confidence issue, not in Parliament, but in you. Do you accept that, and will you call an election if you lose these votes?
What's happening here is we're delivering on what I said. Right? Let's just look at the record. Let's just look at the facts. When I got this job, the number of small boat arrivals into this country had quadrupled in the past few years. Right? That's what happened. Since I've been here, and because of all the things that we've done, we've got the numbers down by a third. Right? That's my record on this situation. We've got the number of illegal enforcement raids up by 70%. We've arrested literally hundreds and hundreds of people.
Hundreds.
Right, in those raids, but also people who are coming illegally.
They've arrested
We're facilitating
hundreds.
this awful trade. We've closed down thousands of people's bank accounts who shouldn't have been here. We're returning over 20,000 people. That's my record on this issue. Those are the facts, and that's because I get it. That's because this is ridiculous what's going on, right? And we're doing something about it. Now, I want to finish the job, right? And finishing the job means getting this legislation on the statute books and getting this scheme up and running. I am determined to see that through, because I think this is a top priority for the country. It's a basic matter of fairness, right? And that's what we're about. We're about delivering. I'm not interested in talking. I'm interested in doing things. The actions we've taken already have already made a difference, but we've got to finish the job, and I'm going to see this thing through.
Okay. So we'll leave it there. He's got his back up against the wall. You can see that there's some desperation there. I don't know how much sincerity there is. I can't tell from what he's saying. All we can do is wait and see what the actions are. And even then, in a case like this, if he is sincere and he's really trying to do something about immigration and stem the tide, put a cork in the little crack in the dam or whatever. If there is somebody there pushing the cork back out, he might end up taking it on the chin, and he might look like the bad guy, not really be the bad guy, because maybe the system is stacked against him in this regard, as it is, I think, in every Western country right now. And yet the governments can't seem to get a handle on this. So it makes you wonder if they're part of the problem, if they are the problem, if any of them are really serious about doing anything about this. And he's saying they've arrested hundreds of people, and I suppose there's some merit to that if the people they're arresting are the human traffickers that he does allude to in his address here today. But, you know, it's like go after the people who are facilitating the mass illegal migration. I don't call it irregular. No, it's illegal. They're coming in illegally. You know, if every time I've crossed the border, I feel more nervous just going to the U.S. to visit than I think the people coming in to either Canada or the U.S. illegally feel. I think that they get a warmer welcome. In fact, here in Canada, the RCMP will carry your luggage as they take you to the nearest hotel. And that's the truth. They actually do that. Immigration, it's going to be one of the key issues. Trump saying in his last speech in Iowa that he will start to round up illegal migrants, and came right out and said that he would deport them. He would deport them. His words. That's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of language that is inflammatory. It triggers people on the other side. It makes people on one side who are upset, frustrated, and fed up cheer. People on the other side find it horrifying. And language like that, in an era of political correctness that we have been living in until now, that kind of language is just enough to make people's heads explode before, but now it's just polarizing. That's why you're seeing reactions like this on the far left networks like CNN. Like I say, they are petrified of the orange man.
As Donald Trump heads into 2024, the clear GOP frontrunner, some Republicans and Democrats are sounding the alarm about just how dangerous they think a second term could be.
You can see him trying to create the embryo of a fascistic, authoritarian criminal party once he gets back into office. And Liz Cheney's got it absolutely right. If he gets back in, does any person think that really he would ever leave office again? If you believe that, you're just too innocent to be let out of the house by yourself.
Jonathan Karl is back with me to discuss his fantastic new book, Tired of Winning, Donald Trump and the End of the Grand Old Party, which I happen to have right here, which I read cover to cover, as they say. I want to, just on this note, talk about one of the many scoops that you have in this book. And the chapter is called Fix It Now. And it's about this notion, not just of him staying if he wins again, but historically, back in 2021, whether or not he thought he could actually be reinstated even after he lost, because he refused to admit that he lost. And you notice that,
like I said, it's that election. Was it
Saturday Night Live,
stolen or not?
That's
at the heart of
or before. And this is from your book. You said, I began the conversation because you talked to him July of 2021 with no intention of asking Trump about the reinstatement fantasies I had seen circulating among some of his most extreme supporters. But as he droned on about the very strong information I'd soon see coming, he sounded like someone who genuinely believed his 2020 defeat could be overturned. So I asked what he meant when he wrote in his statement, 2024 or before. We have some audio of that conversation you had.
By the way, when you had a release recently, you said 2024 or before. What do you mean by that? You don't really think there's a way you would get reinstated before the next election, do you?
I'm not going to explain it to you, Jonathan, because you wouldn't either understand it or write it.
You wrote it, but you might not understand it.
I mean, this is a truly lunatic idea that was floating out there, that somehow Biden could be ejected from the White House long after he was sworn in, long after his administration had taken hold. And what you hear there, and you can hear the way he's saying it, I mean, he believed that somehow the truth was going to come out about the Chinese manipulating our voting machines and the election being stolen, and that he was going to be reinstated as president. And over the course of that chapter, which truly some of the most surprising things that I have learned about Trump, what was going on behind the scenes throughout the year of 2021 and even into last year, Dana, he was pressuring people to pursue this idea that Biden could be upended, thrown out of the White House. He could be put back into the White House. They could rerun the election, and he would be president. And look, it's one thing to hear this in QAnon websites. It's another thing to hear the former president of the United States talking about this.
It sure is. Now, I should say that this is Old Home Week Day, whatever you want to call it, because I used to be your producer. You were at CNN, and we ran around Capitol Hill together. I learned so much from you, and I enjoyed working with you. There you go.
Back in the day, look at that.
Yeah, the guy in the middle was this U.S. senator people may have heard of. Last name is Kennedy. Yeah, that was back in the day. And one of the many stories that you and I covered together on Capitol Hill was 9/11. We were at the Capitol together on 9/11. And it's etched in my mind, obviously in yours, because you write about it in this book, us coming back to the Capitol the evening as dusk was
Okay, that's enough. It's all about that election. I mean, that is at the heart of the entire matter. And that is what is fueling the polarization, the lawfare, the views on both sides. His book, of course, taking the position that, oh, no, Trump is crazy. He's a lunatic. And yet, when I listened to Steve Bannon, complete, and Kash Patel, the absolute opposite. They've got the receipts. They know that the election was, not like it was supposed to be. And when they get power again, they're going to come, and they're coming for him. Each side is ready to rip the other side to shreds in court or in any other way that they need to. And this is going to spill over into the streets for sure. In Canada too. Maybe not quite so much on the, question of the legitimacy of the voting process, the mechanics of it. We still use paper ballots in Canada at the federal level. So you can't quite blame it on voting machines that way. But because of the instability in the US, there's a lot of, there's like very little trust in our institutions and our system as it is. And the instability in the States has affected things here in Canada as well, where people mix everything up. Canadians are like that because we're exposed to so much US media. It's all my life, it has been like that, where people get confused about the US and the Canadian systems on the Canadian side because they get the stuff meshed. But still serious issues up here too, because the issues are all very much the same. Immigration going to be at the heart of so much of this. And you're seeing, because of the wars in Ukraine, in the Middle East, the jockeying for position, the new alliances, geopolitically, the US dollar under pressure, all of these issues, you're seeing that we're really returning to a sort of just a pre-World War II stance or circumstance, I guess. And that seems choreographed to me in many respects as well. So you're seeing a rise in anti-Semitism on the one side. You're seeing, this war between Israel and Hamas. That is what is I think the real powder keg here that is just ready to blow. And we've been hearing, even since, especially since the war in Ukraine ramped up, all the concerns about Nazism, and yet this is all kind of flipped around, upside down, twisted inside out and backwards, and people can't even really, I don't think, determine what a Nazi is anymore, if they ever really could. And I would put it to you that people who think they know what Nazism is have a cliche in their heads these days. It's been pumped into our noggins with mass media, movies like Schindler's List, television shows like Hogan's Heroes, and even movies like Charlie Chaplin's The Great Dictator, where these images become cliches. It's easier to sell someone something if you simplify a message and deliver it to them as a cliche. I've learned that working in media. I learned that a long time ago working in media. You want to deliver a message to people so they can understand it. You just kind of deliver it to the lowest common denominator, simplify the message, and deliver it as a cliche so that people can easily understand it and absorb it, keeping in mind that most people only read headlines on newspapers. They rarely get past the first paragraph, if they even read the first paragraph of a newspaper article. Most people just read a headline and see pictures. And that's also what makes television, the internet so powerful, because it's video. You don't even need to be literate. You don't even need to be able to read to deliver effective messaging to a mass audience that maybe can't even properly read or write. So if you have a population that maybe the education system or a subpopulation, a group, maybe even people from other countries who maybe can't read English very well, but can still interpret images and so on, mass media, video, an effective medium. And I would submit to you that people are being fed messaging in a way that is pulling people one way or the other politically and polarizing people. And I don't think these efforts to identify Nazis have been all that effective, because I think a lot of it is the opposite of what people are thinking. If you really analyze it and you really think about what's going on today, all of these anti-American, anti-colonial, pro-authoritarian, anti-Christian, anti-Jew, anti-everything, it's all from the left. All of it. And yet, in people's minds, the left is progressive. The left is maybe even communist. The left is socialism. The left is good, because the left is there for the little guy. And everything on the right is fascist. Everything on even the conservative side now is, oh, that's very far right wing. That's fascistic. Not that simple. Even nationalism is conflated to be Nazism. No. MAGA, Trump, nationalist. Absolutely nationalism. As soon as he came down that escalator and delivered his first speech, I said, that's nationalism. But nationalism does not automatically equate to fascism or Nazism. It means people are proud of the country. It's America first, Canada first. It's putting your country's interests first, as the leader of any country honestly should. If you're the leader of a country, you go into negotiations, you advocate for your country. If you're a citizen of a country, it's only natural that you might be fond of your country. You might love your country. You want your country to prosper and do well. So, of course, you're going to advocate for a pro-Canada, pro-US, or if you're Russian, pro-Russian. It's only natural, but that doesn't make you a Nazi. What makes someone a Nazi is what's in their heart. It's what they think. It's how they view others. It's prejudice, it's bigotry combined with a political motive. National Socialism, even National Socialism is not in itself Nazism, but ethno-nationalism, ethno-socialist nationalism, something predicated on race. Now that's where you start to get into the dark areas. That's where it starts to get just a wee bit dangerous. You can love your country, you can fight for your country, you can negotiate for your country if you're the leader of a country. You can even try to stem the tide of immigration, not just based on ethnic. Even if you wanted to stem the tide, if you're in China, you don't want your Chinese culture compromised. Maybe you don't want a whole bunch of people from some other country coming in to change the entire demographic of your country and thousands of years of your culture. I get that. I'm not exactly sure why Western countries have to adopt a policy of diversity as our strength. I don't think it's our strength. I've said many times, I think it's our challenge. And I don't necessarily mean that I'm advocating for more immigration. I'm just saying it's a reality we now have to deal with. And it is absolutely a challenge because it's an experiment. And if it doesn't work, and it looks like in many respects, we've got some serious problems associated with it. And if it doesn't work, we're in a whole heap of trouble, aren't we? But it's not about being a nationalist. It's not even about what economic system you believe in. I believe in socialism. I believe in free markets. That doesn't make you a Nazi or a communist necessarily, although communism in my mind is kind of an economic system. And there's economic fascism, but that also does not necessarily make you a Nazi. Not in my mind, not in my definition. And I don't want to get pinned down too much on hard definitions here because that in itself can kind of restrict conversation and flexibility. But this made me think of an interview I watched a while back with Douglas Murray, one of the foremost thought leaders of our time, with Lex Fridman. And, he's very insightful here. He just wrote a book recently called The War on the West. And like me, Douglas Murray sees the threat to the West as coming from the West. Or sorry, the threat to the West, rather, coming from the left. And he also has a warning here that I'm going to run for you, where, if you're out there Nazi spotting, you might not be as effective as you think you are. You might not be as your Nazi radar might not be quite what you think it is, because Nazism can come from all sides, all different directions. And I think that's exactly what we're dealing with here today. You're getting some from what people would describe as the far right. Yeah, you got your neo-Nazis kind of over there, but you're getting a lot of it from the left. They just color their language and twist their words and redefine things and hide behind the language. They don't come right out and say, I'm a Nazi. That's why the Democrats in the States, and I would say even the liberals in Canada, well, they put themselves out there as advocates for the little guy. We're the socialists. We're here to help. We're going to help the First Nations peoples. And they never kind of live up to their promise, right? And it's like this. What's the phrase? The racism of low expectations, where they give money to black people because they think they're just not capable of fending for themselves or helping themselves. They're just not smart enough. So we're just going to have to help them. That, to me, is closer to what a Nazi is than anything, because that's all rooted in prejudice and bigotry. Okay? Oh, you're so stupid. Let me help you. Right? Here, let me enslave you by giving you this social welfare. You just have to go live in that little cordoned off area over there and just be quiet. We'll just slip your meals under the door. Okay? Here's Douglas Murray saying, be on the lookout for Nazism, fascism, because it can come from a variety of directions.
That's always I talked about this in my last book, in The Manners of Crowds. It's one of the big conundrums in activist movements, and particularly in activist academia. Where would you stop? It's not clear, because you've got a job in it. You've got a pension in it. You've got your only esteem in society is in keeping this gig going. What, I mean, is there any likelihood? Have you ever? There's the old academic joke, isn't it? That the end of every conference, the only thing everyone agrees on is that we must have another conference like this one. So one thing they always agree on: this conference has been so great, we must have another one.
So he's
that's a criticism you can apply to a lot of disciplines.
Of course,
civil engineering, bridge building. It's at a certain point. Do we need any more bridges? Can we just fly everywhere?
Well,
so
at the very least, you need to keep the bridges up.
Sure, and they would critical race theory folks would probably make the same argument. At the very least, we need to keep the racism out. We have to make sure we don't descend into the racism.
It assumes all the time that we are living on the cusp of the return of the KKK,
right?
Which is totally wrong. I mean, it's a massive.
You say that now until the KKK armies march in. We can't always predict the future.
We can't always predict the future, and you can always say you should be careful, but you've also got to be careful of people who've got their timing like totally wrong, or their estimation of the society they're in.
You mean like most of society before, in the 1930s, when Hitler was, I mean, so many people got Hitler wrong.
Sure they did.
And so
most people.
So maybe it was nice to have the alarmists thinking there.
Well,
beware of the man with a mustache. Yes.
If only it was that easy.
It's not always about facial hair.
I mean, I always say that. I mean,
it very often is.
These two clean-shaven chaps both say one of the problems of everybody knowing a little bit about Nazism is that they think that they know where evil comes from, and that it comes from like a German with a small mustache getting people to goose step, for instance. And that's not correct. A much better understanding of it is it can come from all number of directions, and keep your antennae as good as you can. But once you end up in this society, which I would argue certainly parts of America in, where you're always in 1938, that's not healthy for a society either. Where people are so primed and think they're so well trained because they spent a term in school learning about the Second World War and the Holocaust, think they're so well trained in Hitler spotting that they can do it all the time. Look at all these phrases we now have in our societies, like dog whistle. As I always say, if you hear the whistle, you're the dog. But people say, that's a dog whistle, as if they're highly trained anti-Nazis. I mean, there should be some humility in it. We should be careful. We should be wary, for sure. And we should also be slightly humble in our inability to spot everything.
If not significantly humble. Right. So if we can, there's something funny, if not dark, about the activity of Hitler spotting. If I just may take an aside, but so critical race theory. How much racism? What is racism? How much of it is in our world today? If we were thinking about this activity of Hitler spotting, how and trying to steelman the case of, if not critical race theory, but people who look for racism in our world, how much would you say?
Well, it's a good thing to try to define. I would say that racism is the belief that other people are inferior to you. You could see a form of it where you thought people were superior to you. That could also happen, but more commonly it's you see a group of people as being inferior to you simply by dint of the fact that they have a different racial background. And that's sort of the easiest way to define racism. As I say, I mean, there are types of racism. I mean, mainly anti-Semitism, actually. Perhaps it's the only one, which weirdly relies on a hatred of people who a certain type of person thinks are better than them. And that's a particular peculiarity, one of the peculiarities of anti-Semitism.
Well, anti-Semitism somehow does both, right?
Yes. Well, one of the eternal fascinating things about anti-Semitism is it does everything at the same time.
It's like a quantum racism.
Yes.
You're both superior and inferior.
You know that, do you know Vasily Grossman's Life and Fate? So in the middle of Life and Fate, which a Persian friend of mine always said was one of only 2 great novels of the 20th century. She was a very harsh literary critic.
What was the other one?
Oh, The Leopard, obviously.
The Leopard?
The Leopard of Giuseppe de Lampedusa. Yeah.
Okay.
She's definitely right on that one. Life and Fate is
I'm learning so much today. Yes.
Life and Fate is an extraordinary book, mainly about. We know Grossman was obviously Jewish himself, but he saw almost everything that he could have done in the Second World War. He saw Stalingrad, he was a journalist, and he wrote first-hand accounts of Stalingrad. He was also the first journalist into Treblinka, and his account, which you can read in one of the collections of his journalism, his account of walking into Treblinka is just one of the most devastating, haunting pieces of journalism or prose you can read. Anyhow, I mentioned him because Grossman in the middle of Life and Fate, which is about a sort of 900-page novel, in the middle of it, which is about the dark axis around Stalingrad, where at one point, amazingly, he sort of goes into the mind.
Okay, we're going to dump out of that. This is, I encourage you to go and find that video on the Lex Fridman podcast, his YouTube channel. Watch the whole interview. Douglas Murray, again, one of the great thinkers of our time, a thought leader for sure. And words of wisdom, because it's not about a uniform. It's not just about a symbol. It isn't just about jackboots. It's about what's in somebody's heart and what's in their head, what they think, how they view others. It's about bigotry, racism, and what kind of actions people want to take based on those beliefs and feelings. That's what we need to be afraid of, wary of, on alert for, on all sides. And there's evil on the other side too. A lot of history on the communist side as well, but there's a whole lot of death over there, even more. We need to be aware of that as well. And these days, right now, I feel like there isn't a whole lot of tolerance for me kind of trying to stake out some sort of middle ground, because I'm being pulled or pushed to be on this side or that side. And I'm resisting because I see the darkness there and I see the darkness there. And yet I don't really believe that it's there and there. I believe that it's all over here. and freedom is over here. So I'm actually over here. Not so much in the middle. I'm on the side of freedom, real, true freedom. And I'm not going to let myself get tricked if I can help it. Not going to let myself get duped into adopting that ideology or that ideology, or joining that side or that side, when in reality, they both lead to a very similar, if not the same, dark place. That's where our politics is taking us. So we have to be careful. And I'm not saying that Donald Trump is taking us there. I'm just saying that the mood, the realities out there. And I'm not saying that it's Joe Biden taking us there. Well, somebody's taking us there. It's polarization, resulting in extremism all the way around. Let's take another break. I'll reconstitute my thoughts while you watch this, and we'll come back after this.
Fear not the storm, for truth is on our side. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Jingle bells. Trudeau smells. Biden laid an egg. Klaus Schwab's deal has no appeal. But tomorrow is a brand new day. Hey everyone. Have a merry Maverick Christmas. And a magnificent new year.
Before he was king, he was prince. And Charles had a one-day job delivering the weather on TV. I didn't know he did this. I watched this, and I found it entertaining. I just wanted to share it with you tonight. I just came across it, and I wanted to bring it to you tonight. It made him seem a little more human to me, even though I know these days the royal family and King Charles himself are not that popular with a lot of folks. But I found it somewhat humorous and even a little bit enlightening. This is 11 years ago. King Charles, then Prince Charles, delivering the weather on BBC television. There he is. Looks like he has a tan. He was probably in Dubai. Looking a little uncomfortable, maybe. He's got his hand in his pocket. Oh, very stiff. Very British. Up class. But let's see how he does here, delivering the weather. In association with the Met Office, it says here. Okay, here we go.
Let's take a look at the weather forecast now. I'm delighted to say we've got a new member of our weather team tonight. Let me hand over to him now. Your Highness.
Well, it's an unsettled picture as we head towards the end of the week. This afternoon, it'll be cold, wet, and windy across most of Scotland. We're under the influence of low pressure, and this weather front pushing northwards is bringing cloud and outbreaks of rain. The rain, of course, will be heaviest over the borders and around Edinburgh, where it could lead to difficult conditions on the roads. In the west, rain will be lighter and patchier. There will maybe a few drier interludes over Dumfries House in Ayrshire. Aha! There'll be snow for the higher ground of the Highlands and Aberdeenshire. The potential for a few flurries over Balmoral who the hell wrote this script, as the afternoon goes on. The best of the drier and brighter weather will, of course, be over the Northern Isles and the far north of the mainland. So a little hazy sunshine for the Castle of May and Caithness, but a cold day everywhere with temperatures of just 8 Celsius and a brisk northeasterly wind. Thank God it isn't a bank holiday.
Not bad. If he loses his gig as king, maybe he might be able to pick up a new job as a weathercaster, a meteorologist, a television presenter, or maybe he could like come on YouTube and do an interview with us. Doubtful. But anyway, I just thought he didn't do a bad job delivering the weather. Thought it was kind of funny. Anyway, did you know that NASCAR wants to go to the moon? Wants to go racing on the moon. It's a real thing. They are developing a car, NASCAR, to go to the moon. NASCAR potentially going where no motorsport has gone before, all the way to the lunar surface. They've teamed up with a company called, I think it's Leidos, Leidos. I've never heard of them before. And I wasn't aware of this, but they've announced a partnership, and they could see elements of a future NASA Artemis lunar rover, which could contain automotive design, manufacturing, and it could be developed, designed, produced in part by a team from NASCAR. And they might even put like NASCAR right on this lunar racing machine. As you may know, NASA's Artemis program marks the return to the moon for humans. The United States wants to go back to the moon. We haven't been there since 1972. But unlike the Apollo program, a lot of what is needed for the Artemis program comes from private contractors. Enter NASCAR, which will help with the development of a vehicle for future astronauts that they could use to travel on the surface of the moon. I've seen designs also from companies like Hyundai. I've seen similar designs for lunar rovers from companies in Japan and the Japan space program. Well, they've gone to the people who know all about speed, the people at NASCAR in the US of A. So there's a company there called Dynetics, which is a subsidiary of Leidos, and they've submitted a bid for the new lunar rover. They're calling it a lunar terrain vehicle, and NASCAR is part of the whole operation. So this is a partnership that has resulted in the unveiling of a prototype of this lunar race car. I don't know that racing is really the ultimate objective here, but the expertise in team building, the experience they have in building vehicles, I think that's what they're trying to tap into with the NASCAR teams, not to mention the fact they've got a strong brand there, which helps on the public relations side. So let me just, we've got some video here to share with you, kind of explain what this thing is all about. Let me bring it up here for you. I'm going to show you this NASCAR Lunar Rover project. Try to get it up here for you. No, that ain't going to work. Here we go. Okay. Go over here. Hang on, almost there. I had to go to a different window to get this up. Okay, here we go. NASCAR going to the moon, baby. You ready? I am. 3, 2, 1. We have ignition.
It is a global event.
You would dream about moments like this. Yeah, man, okay, there, 1, 2, 4, sound good.
T-minus 15 seconds.
Have ourselves a day. Still get us another one here. No place I'd rather be right here, right now.
Young and old, all over the world, anticipating.
Ignition sequence start.
There's command fire.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ready. This is all you.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Up to the gearbox speed building.
The boys really poured on. 135. Velocity to 1,200 feet per second. A new measure of man's ambition. This is it. Throttle down.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We choose to go to the moon.
Yeah. Let's go racing on the moon. Here's some pictures of it from here's Forbes magazine. They did a spread on this. Let's take a look at let's get a gander at some of their NASCAR lunar rover pics. Here we go. That's what they're thinking it might look like. Doesn't look like any NASCAR I've seen before. But hey, that's okay. I don't think it's going to do 200 miles an hour. The good thing about going fast on the moon is it doesn't have to be aerodynamic. Oh man. Oh, that's a tank. I'm going to launch that sucker into outer space, put her into orbit, then slingshot to the moon, put a crash helmet on and an airtight suit. Put a satellite dish up there on top and beam some rock and roll back and forth from Earth to the moon and back. Pretty cool stuff. I kind of like it. What I'd really like to see is him send up a racing team to the moon, send up a few of those things, and then do a race on the lunar surface. Now that would be a gas. I'd like that. Okay, let me take another break. I'm not sure how much more news we have to cover tonight, so we'll see where we go after we take this quick break. Don't eat the crickets, man. They ain't nutritious.
We are Mavericks. We say no to the Trudeau and Biden New World Order. And to bugs. Because bugs are creepy and gross. And people should not eat bugs. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Hey, no! To bugs!
Okay, so I know that Pierre Poilievre in Canada has positioned himself to put real pressure now on the Liberals, Justin Trudeau, to axe that carbon tax. Just got this response from MPs. So he's the idea here is that Pierre Poilievre and his Conservatives have launched what could become an overnight marathon voting session in the House of Commons. They say they'd be making good on their threat to delay the government's agenda over the opposition to the carbon tax. So the Conservatives began calling now, started to call for what could total more than 100 votes on line items from the Liberal government's latest spending plans. So following the debate and failed vote on the official opposition's last supply day motion of the season, once again calling for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to scrap the carbon tax. There was a move by members of Parliament to consider this latest batch of supplementary estimates for the 2023-2024 year. And that is triggering what could be an estimated 27 straight, full, ongoing hours of votes. So the Liberals are saying this is like grandstanding by Poilievre. This is another Mr. Smith goes to Washington moment for Poilievre. Remember, what was it when he went into the House and he just started to speak and speak and speak and speak, and he said he wasn't going to stop? And I don't know how many hours he went on for. It was a long time. Eventually he did succumb and called it quits. But that was like a Mr. Smith goes to Washington moment. This is another one. So tonight it says they'll be dealing with supply bills. And this is delaying everything for the holidays for those poor Liberals. So tonight we had this before they went into session. So let me just run where we're at with that. This is, where did we go here? Hello, there we are. See, you run the king, and the next thing you know, you start speaking as though you're British. And here we are. And we're freezing up. We've frozen. Here we go.
So we are going in to vote on supply tonight. We will stand up to the Conservatives and their reckless attempt to bully members of Parliament, but more importantly, their reckless attempt to bully Canadians. I just proposed a motion in there to ensure that we have health breaks for members of Parliament, that we would vote until midnight and pick up again at 7 a.m. The Conservatives said no to that. I think that is something that is inappropriate, and they should, quite frankly, be ashamed about. We would continue voting as normal at 7 a.m. The things that they are objecting to: support for the RCMP, support for agriculture, support for Canada Border Services Agency. They are proposing cuts in these objections, and then when they're going to vote, most likely against this, they are going to be opposing supports for Canadians. Mr. Poilievre is gaslighting Canadians with this attempt. And the question is if he's actually going to be in the chamber or not, because the Conservative Party of Canada has him scheduled to be doing a fundraiser right now in Montreal. And so here he is yesterday claiming to Canadians that he's going to hold this government to account, that he's going to do these things. Well, let's see if he shows up to vote or not, or whether he's out there raising political funds.
Les libéraux vont se tenir debout ce soir pour essentiellement tout ce que le gouvernement.
So I'm checking to see if we can pick up a feed out of there, but I'm not seeing
développement économique,
right
les subventions, les programmes
any
qui aident
available
aux
feeds
gens les
from
plus
the
vulnérables
House.
dans la société. Et les libéraux vont se tenir debout pour cela. Les conservateurs, par contre, vont voter contre systématiquement, donc définancer l'ensemble du gouvernement. Mr. Poilievre is putting, in some cases, elderly members of parliament, in some cases, ill members of parliament, through circumstances that no human being should have to go through. We are projecting up to 30 straight hours of voting. All of these votes are confidence votes, and Liberals will express their vote confidently Mais cela dit, personne ne devrait avoir à voter pendant le tour de l'horloge. Personne ne devrait avoir à subir ce genre d'harcèlement et acharnement de la part du chef de l'opposition. D'autant plus que M. Poilievre, qui s'est dit, bon, prêt à
Well, you
tout
don't need to know
pour
English to know
bloquer
what he's
tout
saying.
au gouvernement,
Or
M.
French,
Poilievre
rather.
n'est même pas là
I can
pour
tell you that he's like,
supporter
Pierre
l'ensemble de
Poilievre is
ses
being a
députés
jerk.
dans l'exercice de leurs fonctions. Donc,
We
nous
don't want to have to
pensons
sit in there for 30
qu'il
straight
s'agit
hours and
d'un
vote.
acharnement par quelqu'un qui prend des risques avec la
We're
santé
just
de
going to do what we want.
l'ensemble des parlementaires et l'ensemble du personnel qui appuie les parlementaires, les gardes de sécurité, les
No
pages,
fair.
l'administration de la Chambre, les techniciens et j'en passe. Et nous trouvons ça absolument inacceptable.
But I think I think
M.
Poilievre again is scoring a lot of points.
I think Canadians will have seen over the past couple of years these same kinds of tactics from the extreme right wing of the Republican Party attempting to shut down the government. And that's precisely what Mr. Poilievre is bringing to Canada. And that is precisely what he is attempting to do tonight. It's what he attempted to do at the Natural Resources Committee last night. It's what he's threatened to do at other committees. But this is specifically because he is leading the charge when it comes to that extreme right-wing agenda that is all about shutting down the government, holding back vital supports to Canadians, making it harder for Canadians day by day, and we will stand up to him, and we will keep standing up for Canadians.
And we'll keep on spending and keep on taxing.
On fait quoi maintenant? Qu'est-ce qu'on fait pour essayer de ramener la tension à son plus bas?
On devrait se tenir
And here's my
debout
translation.
au
No
pays.
fair.
C'est exactement ce que nous faisons. Les députés libéraux, les députés d'NPD, du Bloc québécois, hier tous au comité de ressources naturelles, a essayé et a vraiment
We wanted to just like spend more money and buy more votes.
à pousser ce qu'ils
And then
voulaient
blame
faire
the
les
conservatives.
conservateurs parce qu'ils étaient ici pour travailler pour les Canadiens et
And the
pas
far
jouer
right.
les jeux
And Trump.
d'ego des conservateurs et de M. Poilievre. Alors, on va démontrer aux Canadiens c'est quoi être une députée qui respecte les
The far
institutions
right, they say,
démocratiques
the far
et
right.
on va
The
démontrer
conservatives
ce qui
in
fait
Canada,
les
I would
conservateurs
hardly say they
et
are far right.
encourager de
I guess it
reconsidérer ce
depends
qu'il
on
fait maintenant parce que c'est
what
pas bon pour
policy
la
you're looking at.
démocratie,
They
c'est pas
weren't.
bon
They
pour le
certainly
Canada.
weren't
Vous décriviez ce qui se passe en ce moment, ce qui va se
people
passer.
friendly
Donc,
during
si
the
vous ne pouvez
pandemic,
pas
were
prendre
they?
de pause et que vous devez voter,
Jeez,
faire
they
le
could
tour
have.
de
They could have
l'horloge,
done a
votre
little
rapport.
more to
Comment vous
stand
décrivez
up.
ça?
Donc, on va être là, on
But
va pas
Poilievre wasn't the
dormir, on
leader
va être
then,
là pour
so
voter
I'm crossing
pour
my
les
fingers and
prochaines
hoping
130,
for the best.
140 votes, ce
From
que
that
ce
guy.
soit. C'est vraiment quelque chose. Moi, j'ai
No
8 mois et
fair. That's
demi
my
d'être
translation
enceinte.
again.
Alors, je vais être là pour se tenir debout pour mes concitoyens. Mais les conservateurs ont une opportunité d'appuyer
No
la
fair.
santé des députés, mais aussi la santé de tout le monde
He's
qui
at it
travaille
again.
ici. Parce que
They've
quand
got
le
a real
Parlement, quand la
opponent
Chambre se
in
siège,
Poilievre.
tout le monde qui travaille
He's a
ici
smart
doit être
smart
ici
guy.
aussi. Il n'y a pas
He knows how to
endroit de
play.
travail dans le pays où on requiert ce type d'environnement pour les employés et c'est les conservateurs qui le font.
Are there any talks, are there any discussions going on to try to resolve this so that it doesn't stretch out this long?
Certainly. I mean, we're in conversation on a daily basis, but the conservative leader has decided that, he would rather disrespect Parliament. He would rather try to obstruct than actually deliver for Canadians. As I said, he is gaslighting Canadians in how he is behaving and treating them and not telling them the full truth about what he is attempting to do. But as Liberals, as New Democrats, as Bloc, as Green MPs, we're all here to work for Canadians. Unfortunately, the Conservatives are only here to obstruct, and we're going to have to go in to vote to make sure that we keep the government going and we keep delivering for Canadians. Thank you.
Ultimately, what are the results of this for parliamentary business? Like at the end of the day, what kind of delays are we going to see? What kind of stuff is maybe not going to get done that would have gotten done otherwise, like big picture?
Yeah, I'm really sorry because we don't want to miss the vote. but
Look at the bills on the order paper. All of those are being stalled.
Affordable housing, affordable groceries, climate change, the future of jobs in Canada, the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement, chemical weapons sanctions against countries like Russia. There's a whole bunch of legislation that is at risk because of the games that they're playing.
We have to go vote.
Yeah, thank you.
Merci.
Okay.
Brièvement, parce qu'on va voter dans 2 minutes.
That's
Et on a
the
vu
way
hier
she
soir
went.
avec les conservateurs, ils ont mis avec l'intelligence artificielle 21 000 amendements. Et si vous avez vu,
I'm
aux
sorry. I
ressources naturelles,
apologize to all our
façon de vouloir
American
bloquer
viewers for all the
un
French.
projet de
I
loi
know
qui
that
a été fortement
the vast
influencé par
majority of
l'NPD.
you do not
C'est
speak French.
21 000 amendements qui ont été portés par
It's
l'intelligence
Canada.
artificielle
It's what we do.
par l'argent des contribuables. C'est évaporé dans 5 minutes. Ça a pris 5 minutes de tout effacer ces 21 000 amendements. Alors, on voit que le blocage des conservateurs, ça n'a pas vraiment du sens et ce n'est pas efficace. Puis, je déplore aujourd'hui que qu'est-ce qu'ils font, c'est de faire travailler toutes les
So they'll
employés
be
de
in there
chambre,
for a
garder une
long
sécurité, tous
time
les
from the
gens
looks of it.
qui
Still
donnent leur vie,
ongoing.
l'administration de la
And
Chambre. Et
I
au
do
lieu
not have a
d'avoir,
feed out of there
des
tonight
votes qui ont un sens,
at the
qui
moment
ne
anyway.
pas injure la santé et la sécurité, les conservateurs
But
choisis.
if this goes as Polyev plans, they'll be there till
mon
this
ennemi.
time
Il faut
tomorrow
dire que M.
and then
Polyev n'est
beyond.
même pas présent. Alors, il n'y a pas le courage
So
de
we're not
suivre
going
les
to
conséquences
obviously follow
de ce
that
qu'il a demandé
in its
des
entirety anyway.
conservateurs. So
No one's-
yesterday we saw with the conservatives, they had 21,000 artificial intelligence amendments paid for by taxpayers that at the Natural Resources Committee, because they were badly done, basically were all eliminated in 5 minutes. So 21,000 amendments disposed of in 5 minutes because the conservatives hadn't thought through things. They did use an enormous amount of taxpayers' resources, and it was for a 5-minute delay. And tonight we're seeing what they're trying to do is force all the hardworking folks in the House administration, people give their lives to preserving democracy and our parliament, make them work all night rather than to have some kind of negotiated, more sensible approach that would not involve working all night. Mr. Polyev is absent. He doesn't have the courage to be here in the House at the same time as he is obliging his members of parliament to vote all evening. So I deplore his tactics, and it's not really even clear what he's trying to get at. It's just the conservatives blocking things for the sheer delight of blocking parliament.
Comment est-ce qu'on fait maintenant pour élever
Maybe
le
because
débat?
they
Comment
don't
est-ce
want
qu'on
the
fait
carbon
pour régler
tax.
cette situation-là? Est-ce qu'on en discute? Est-ce qu'il y a des négociations? Parce que depuis hier, le comité, on sent que la tension
That would
est montée
be
d'un cran.
a reason
Mais,
why.
moi, les conservateurs veulent tout bloquer. Ça, c'est leur objectif. Pour nous, au MPD,
Anyway, enough. You got the idea. 21,000 amendments and generated how? Artificial intelligence. What did I talk about last night? Artificial intelligence having an impact on our political system. And there's just a kind of a almost benign impact, but still an impact. Just thinking up a way to use AI to their advantage. Human beings couldn't produce stuff that quickly, but there you have 21,000 amendments, and the Liberals and NDP had to address that in a human way, and they're still addressing it tonight. So, artificial intelligence changing the landscape in ways that I think that people maybe hadn't even thought of or predicted. And there it is for you just tonight. In a fair way, to be sure, not an illegal or sinister way, but it just shows you how you can use artificial intelligence and how technology influences, changes things, right? Marshall McLuhan, the medium is the message. So they're delivering a pretty strong message in the House tonight, using a strategy that is based on material produced with artificial intelligence. Anyway, let's go to the phones, shall we? Enough of me blabbering on about all this stuff. Let's get you guys to chime in on this. Let's take a break while I set up the phones, and when we come back, you guys can join the conversation.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, I'm almost there. And just a reminder that if you are able to, if you're inclined to support the show, you can do that by donating at maverickdonations.com or at freedomreporters.com. Please like, share, subscribe. Subscribe over on Rumble. That's our main growing platform. We're on a bunch of other ones now, too. Sometimes I'm broadcasting live now on Wimkin. We're uploading to Cloud Hub. We got a bit of a following over there. We have YouTube, BitChute. We're on Facebook when sort of they throttle the heck of it out of us there. We're on Twitter, Twitch. We upload over there. Odyssey. It's a weird platform, Odyssey. But anyway, yeah, like, share, subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell if you subscribe on YouTube, where we are running tonight on our main Maverick News channel and our secondary channel. And I have a tertiary channel, a third channel as well, but we're not running there tonight. But that's another one where we're going to try and build that one up too. So, yeah, just like, share, subscribe. Hit the notification bell and donate if you are able to. And you can also donate through the Rumble Rants. And yeah, you can subscribe over there too, which would certainly help us out a lot. We are going to go to the phones here in just a moment. I am just in the process of finishing the setup there so you guys can join the conversation. And I am setting up a new phone system. So in the days ahead, hopefully, I can figure out how to make it all work technically. So we have a more efficient phone system set up. But for now, we'll keep on doing it the way we've been doing it from the beginning. And let me bring up the phone number for you to call. You can join the conversation at 1-833-975-3733. And I will have that phone system up and running momentarily. So give it about 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, and start to call. And I'll be ready on the other side.
Exile. The Knights of Malta. Maverick News. Join us. The world is watching.
Okay. Phones are set up, ready to take calls, and you can join the conversation at that number on the screen, and I'll run the full promo to reinforce.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975-FREE. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a Maverick. Join us.
Let's get right to it with the man himself. Hello, sir. How are you tonight?
Mr. Rick, I lied to everybody in the chat. I said I wasn't calling in tonight, but you can't hold me back. Once I start, I'm going off. I'm going off like a rocket ship. I'm going off like we should send those transgenders to the moon for a drag race. in those cars. If you go on YouTube, I just got a message and I watched it anyways. CP24.
Yeah.
Edmonton. See what Danielle Smith's up to.
Oh, I had a clip.
And this
from
is
her.
the way democracy.
I had
this is the way democracy should be, folks. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
If we got to go and vote on every little fucking thing in this country, like immigration, how about housing, how about money to Ukraine or fucking anywhere, so be it. Right? Play that video if you got it. Let the people see it.
Are you talking the one with their Zoom call? Your Zoom thing?
No.
No? Oh, okay.
No, no, they're going to go to the polls, like a little referendum.
Oh, okay.
On the for CPP, the Canada Pension Plan.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They're going to let the people vote. You know, how difficult is it? You let the people vote. Let them vote on everything. I'm sick and tired of having people speak on our behalf. When you have a minority government speaking for all Canadians, first off, you're a minority government.
Mm-hmm.
Second half, you're speaking for a fucking minority government, not for the majority. So when he sits there and says, I'm speaking on behalf of all Canadians, well, keep my name out of your fucking mouth. Because you're not speaking for me or my friends. Right? So that's a little bit off topic, but I thought I'd go there anyways with you. And if you find it, it's a quick watch, it's a short video.
Yeah, I don't have that one. I had the other one where she was holding Trudeau and actually Stephen Guilbeault, the environment minister, accountable for what they did at COP28, saying that they were really infringing on the provincial jurisdiction by making more promises on climate change at COP28 without consulting the provinces, because we're supposed to have an equal partnership between provinces and the federal government in this country. And the government in Ottawa is not respecting that.
Okay, where would you like to look, Rumble or YouTube? I'm on both. I'll send you the link and
Sure.
Post it up. Okay, YouTube?
Sure, yep.
Okay, there's the link.
Okay, are you in the private chat or the no, you're in the main chat, I guess. Over on
I'm in the main chat at 22,000 people or whatever. I can send it in the Rumble chat, all the things too.
That's okay, I'll find it over here. I just have to open the right window. There we are.
But this is how simple politics should be for everybody. When it comes down to a big decision, especially like the CPP, or like I said, immigration, or the housing crisis, or the drug crisis, okay, it should be up to the people. This is how easy it is. Play that clip.
I don't see in the chat there, Leo.
I'm in the chat.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. I'm not seeing it on my feed because I have multiple feeds coming in, right?
Yeah.
So
that's a YouTube chat. I can send it on Rumble.
Yeah, put it up in the Rumble chat.
Here it is in Rumble.
It in there.
Okay,
I got you. There we go.
Shit, I'm getting pretty good with this computer shit for being somebody who only likes computers when I'm getting paid to use them.
No, we don't want that one. We want, I think that's the feed there. There it is. Okay, here we go.
Alberta is set to let residents decide whether they want the province to leave the Canada Pension Plan. The Conservative-led legislature is set to pass a bill setting out a referendum on the decision. Opposition NDP leader Rachel Notley says the bill gives the government wide latitude to act regardless of the referendum and says pension funds will be at risk. Premier Danielle Smith's government rejected amendments which would have compelled the government to abide by the referendum's results.
Oops, hang on, I took you out of the feed.
This simple yet brilliant trick to heat your home in 90 seconds will save thousands of dollars on your heating bill this winter.
Oh, for
An
crying out
ingenious
loud,
way
where's
to
the-
heat your home without wasting money
Where's
is
the
sweeping
feed?
the market by storm in Canada. A clever student from Canada, the University of Toronto, just
I gotta
destroyed
stop.
the billion
Oh, no,
dollars
he
heating
didn't.
industry by
Whatever. There, that one's gone. Okay, got rid of that.
There you go. But it's as simple as that, right? When it comes down to big decisions, and you got these minions that are running the show, okay, making those decisions, it's, you know, they're only looking out for their best interest, Rick. Right? I really like what Rami. You know what? He'd make a great vice president. That Rami.
Vivek Ramaswamy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's him. Okay.
He's got his talking
I'll
points
tell you,
down. Yeah,
he's a great speaker.
he is.
Okay, and he's saying everything that the people want to hear.
Yep.
Okay, they're sick and tired of fucking this immigration, Texas, all of them, right? People just walking across the border and this and that, right? He'd make a great vice president, that's for sure. Yeah, you know, with Trump's age, who knows? Maybe he could slide in. Trump's getting older, right? He could die in office.
Yeah,
So,
you know, especially if he serves 2 more terms. You know how old he would be? He'd be pushing 90
Yeah.
at the end of another 8 years.
Yeah, but his mind's pretty good for his age.
Oh, yeah.
For his age right now, his mind's pretty good. So you never know.
That's
He
right.
might be in better shape than Joe Biden at 90, right? So,
He could well
but
be.
what he had to say about Haley is right. Okay, the corruption. You know, she claimed bankruptcy. How in the hell is she a fucking millionaire already? And it's happening over here in Canada. Open your eyes, guys.
Yeah, she was squirming
So
on
you hear
stage.
that buzz?
Yeah.
Yeah, you hear that buzzer?
Yeah.
In the background? That's Yabba Dabba Doo time.
Okay.
Okay, and
Who's
if
that?
you watch the Flintstones, Fred Flintstone's Yabba Dabba Doo and the buzzer goes, that's my lunch break.
Oh, good for you.
That's it. Yeah, so with that being said, get to your next caller, but I thought that would be interesting, okay, what Alberta's up to, right?
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
Thank you, sir.
Simple.
Appreciate
That's
the call.
democracy. Democracy is let the people decide.
All right. Thank you, Leo. Appreciate your call, my friend. And
bye-bye.
Let's roll this again. You can call and join the conversation at 1-833-975-3733.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975-FREE. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a Maverick. Join us.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Too late. Too late. Too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, Mavericks. Let's go back to the phones. Here's our next caller. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I am fine. Is this Chris?
Yes, it is. How are you
Well,
tonight?
Outstanding. How are you, Chris?
Well, not too bad. We had a beautiful dumping of snow last night, about 15 centimeters. And the day before that, it was like 15 above outside. But it was actually a beautiful snow, and a lot of it was melting today because it's really warm. But it sure made the Christmas spirit feel a bit better.
Oh, that's good.
Let's put it that way. Yeah. So it makes the lights look prettier when there's snow on the ground, right?
Till it turns to slush.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of doing that already on the roads and stuff, but that's okay. I don't mind. It can do that on the roads. Yeah, so I was listening to your conversation last night there with that, is it Alex? Was that her name that called in?
Yes, Alex, yeah.
Yeah, that was really sad to hear her in the state that she's in. And, it's just so many that are in that state. And it's hard to believe that a prime minister could bring people to that point.
To tears.
Yeah, like I really felt bad for her last night. It's terrible. Like
Alex is not alone. Alex is not.
Oh,
alone.
I know. I can imagine these days. Well, like when you just played, like when Pierre called out Trudeau there yesterday. I don't know if you saw that video about he was gonna, run all these, make them vote all night and stuff.
Yeah.
And then that lady that was on, I literally, she actually makes me sick. She's worse. I think she's worse than Freeland. Honest to God.
I don't know.
Or she's the same. I don't know. They're all in the same kettle. You know what I mean? They're just. Yeah, Mr. Speaker. Oh God, that makes me ill. So, did you see the PM that got ousted yesterday in the House?
The PM that got ousted in the House.
Are they? Yeah.
You mean
Damien
the
Carrick.
MP or the PM is Prime Minister?
What is? No. The MLAs or MPs or whatever they're called. The ones that go sit in the House and talk.
Okay, well, it depends on which province, or is it federal?
Okay. Oh, well, it's federal, so it was an Alberta member of Parliament by the name of Damien Carrick, who's out of the Battleford area of Stettler area, all that area.
Yeah.
He called out Trudeau yesterday and told Trudeau he was a liar and everything. And then the House Speaker wanted him to say he was sorry. And Damien said, no, I will not apologize to this liar and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, he had to leave the House for the day anyways.
Yeah.
It's just so, it's a gong show when they're in that House. Like, really. And if the Liberals think we feel sorry for them, what Pierre is doing, I think is actually kind of funny. Why not screw their holidays up?
That is exactly it. Like as much as Alex was upset yesterday, you know what you have to do with these guys is you have to laugh.
Yeah, you do.
So much of it is just ridiculous.
It's just like it's a big drama show.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. It's like the world's a big stage right now, and we're all sitting there watching it. And I understand how she feels because there's lots of times I don't get to the point where I'm crying, but I get to the point that I'm so angry. Like, it's a good thing you're not standing in front of me, kind of thing. Yeah. But then you just got to step back and go, you know what? He's going down the polls every day, more and more. I don't know how much longer it can go on. Like, I mean, at what point in the polls do they have to call an election? Like, how far down does he have to go?
Well, the polls don't.
Before something has to change.
Polls are just a gauge. They don't bind anything. But there is that petition that has been formally introduced, or is about to be formally introduced, I guess, in the House. They have over, I think, 200,000 signatures already, with people calling for a vote of no confidence. And then if that petition goes forward and is presented to Parliament with those signatures on it, and people can still sign it, you can find it on the government website. Then the
I think it's till
petition
the
calls.
24th or something. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
they want an election 45 days after that. Now, the petition just applies public pressure. It's not binding again, but it still carries some
Right.
weight because it'll get more attention. And if the government doesn't respond to something like that with that many signatures on it, then it's just going to erode his support even more. So it certainly can't hurt to go sign it
Right.
if you want an election.
I actually already did sign it.
Oh, there you go.
How many?
Not
So how many signatures do you think that have to be on there before they'll actually acknowledge it? Though.
I don't think there is any particular number. I think it still comes down to whether, Trudeau, he doesn't have to call a vote of no confidence just because there's a petition. He doesn't have to. He could. It depends.
No.
It depends on, Poilievre is a pretty sharp cookie, right? So maybe he can
I know.
use that to leverage a vote somehow, or put more pressure on to get a vote of confidence in the House that could turn into a vote of no confidence.
I'm really hoping that the new year will change something. Like,
will.
I don't think Canadians can take. I don't think we can take another year of this, Rick.
See, that's right, because
Like,
that's
oh
what
my
that
God.
petition will do, actually, Chris, is it will put more pressure on Trudeau because there is pressure from within his own party now for him to resign. We know that. So there are
Right.
people positioning themselves to become the next leader already. We're seeing that. And as we've been reporting here, sometime early in the new year, he is expected to resign if he doesn't improve in the polls because he's down so low.
Yeah.
So he'll get pressure from within
Oh,
his
I
own
know.
party, right? That's really where the pressure comes from the public. and
Wow.
then,
Do
his own people will want to get rid of him.
you have any idea? Have you looked at the latest polls? I haven't seen anything lately to see if he's fallen any more from November. Have you seen anything?
Well, we did about a week ago show what the polling was in the 338, and the Conservatives were way out in front. They had, what was it, nationally? Yeah, they're down a little. No, that's Quebec. So nationally, it was like Conservatives had like almost 45% or something, and then the rest was split up, right? So they were way out in front, almost
wow.
double what the Liberals have, which was a big change because
wow.
even just a month ago they were still neck in neck, and now not so much.
Yeah. No, and every day I'm sure they fall even more because every day he does something to piss people off. It never fails. Every single day.
Yeah.
But anyways, what I was going to say was, so you were reading that story last night, and I was actually in tears. That was actually pretty funny. That grandma reading to that little guy.
Yeah.
But
That was hilarious.
can you imagine? I couldn't even imagine rhyming that over and over again. I was lost after the second page. But have you ever watched? Did you ever watch Mr. Bean?
Oh yeah, I used to watch him all the time.
Okay, so the other night on TV, they had Mr. Bean's Christmas on.
Oh yeah.
And that's the one where he puts that's the one where he puts his head in that big turkey, and then his girlfriend comes to the door. That is hilarious, and I encourage anybody to watch that if they want to laugh, because it is, because you know how he doesn't talk, right?
Yeah. There's the poll, actually. I've got it up
hilarious.
for you.
So
I've got that poll up for you. Conservatives are 40%. Public support. Liberals are at 25.
Oh wow.
And the NDP 20. The Bloc Québécois 7. The Greens at 5. And the PPC at 3. So
wow.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the Liberal Party that low before?
I have. Yeah. I have.
Wow.
But
wow.
Yeah. And, and these things can change
Yeah.
like quickly, right? Like, look what happened to the Liberal Party,
Yeah.
in these past elections. Like they lost party status at one point. So they're trying to rebuild now. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that guy you just had on earlier there. I didn't get his name, the one in the States there that was calling that woman out. he was really, she didn't know what to say, did she? She was just like,
Vivek
he's
Ramaswamy.
telling it like it is.
Yeah, Vivek.
Yeah,
Calling out
like
Nikki
they're
Haley. Yeah.
they're yeah.
She didn't
Well,
know
you know
what
what,
to
and it's good. No, she didn't. And the others kept trying. Well, that's enough. But he just kept going on. But you know what? I'm glad that they're waking up now and they're actually speaking out. It's about time.
Yep.
Like Pierre is standing up more and more to Trudeau now. Like he I think he's even tired of the game. Like enough.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. So anyways, that's all I called in for tonight. Was I just felt sorry for that girl, and I hope she's doing okay tonight.
Yeah.
And like I said, if she's listening, watch Mr. Bean's Christmas. That'll give you a good laugh for the night.
That's right.
Or what's that other? A National Lampoon Christmas. To me, that's not Christmas until I watch that. So that should be coming on pretty soon.
You know what though?
Yeah.
I saw this story today about Tim Allen. And they're coming after Tim Allen. Tim Allen's kind of a conservative, right? And so there's this story. I'll show you. I think I've got it actually queued up. Here it is right here. No, here it is here. Okay. So there's the Tim Allen story. I'm going to bring it up on the screen for you. Get rid of the poll, and I'll bring up Tim Allen. And I thought, this is despicable, what's going on here. This actress, Casey Wilson, calls Tim Allen out in this. She says, Casey Wilson calls Tim Allen a bitch, says working with him on the Santa Clauses movies was the single worst experience she's ever had with a co-star. I thought, well, what's good about doing a story like that after all this time? And what is the purpose? And you know what I think it is?
Yeah.
It's that he's a conservative. And it's anti-Christmas, it's anti-Tim Allen. It's like, so she says here, in the latest episode of Bitch Sesh podcast, the Happy Endings alum refers to her time acting opposite Allen as the single worst experience she's ever had with another actor. So of course, let's give this a lot of profile, right?
Oh.
So it's terrible. Like if you're a conservative, they're coming for you at some point, those guys.
Oh.
But
wow.
anyway.
Well, because they're all demented. I hate to say it, but they're all demented. I don't even know what to say anymore. So it's
as Michael Savage would always say, liberalism is a mental disorder.
Trudeau. Well, and like Trudeau talking about, what was it in the House a couple of days, there was about a white Christmas. Who's he going to blame it on if we don't have a white Christmas? Us? Is that kind of what he said? Or I can't remember how he said that. But I thought, what an act. Like, honest to God, or something about Christmas isn't racist, or I don't know.
Well, the Human Rights Commission came out and said that
now we're picking on.
Yeah, the Human Rights Commission in Canada came out and said that Christmas is an expression of colonialism and racism, and so they've what the heck is that? And religion intolerance. No, the Human Rights Commission is intolerant of Christianity.
Yeah.
They've got it all
no
upside
kidding.
down like everything else these days. Like I said at the beginning of the show, situation not normal, all effed up.
No, every day it gets weirder and weirder, like you said. It's just bizarre. And like you said, you can't make this stuff up. You know what I'm saying? It's so insane. I don't know where it's all going to end, but something better change in the new year for all of us, even in the state.
It's got to.
It's going to
heat, but this coming year, it's going to change, but it's also going to heat up because the environment is just the way it is, right? So don't expect it to get better right away. It's going to probably get worse in the new year because we're into elections, and serious elections. So just brace yourselves and don't get upset. Just laugh about it. Because it will be ridiculous, and just try. I say, just try not to get caught up in playing their game by their rules. We need to rethink things and strategize, and
Exactly.
That's how we're.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all we can do. But I mean, there's a lot of people that have already, like you said, they're so far down that, you know, you can only wish them the best and try to encourage them the best you can, right? Like, I mean, especially at Christmas time, because it's not, you know, it's a lot of people, it's not a good time at Christmas for a lot of people.
That's right.
It's a
Speaking
really
of which,
hard
what
time. Like
happened
my
with
brother,
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was wondering what happened with your bank account because you had that issue with the money, and did you get refunded on the fraud?
Oh yeah, no, I never got it back because I called the fraud department twice, and you know what they said? Because it was on a debit Visa, they basically said, well, you gave them authorization to order the stuff. They said they deposited you back the money. I said, yeah, but they didn't give me back the whole thing. And then they went and took it back out again. And you know what she basically said to me? It's your dime because you were the one that gave out the information. It's more of a spam than it is fraud.
But they didn't deliver the goods.
Yeah, and I'm going, exactly. I said, I never got the goods, but they said it's still spam. And that's what's happening to a lot of people right now is it's not fraud, it's spam because you initiated them to use a debit card in the first place. So basically the bank saying it's your fault.
How much money are we talking
So after
about?
numerous fights to them, well, we're only talking about $56. We're not talking about lots and lots, but you know, $56 to me is a lot of money, right?
Uh-huh.
So I mean, that was that week that was the week it cleaned me right out. You know, so yeah. So after numerous fighting with the bank, it's basically, and I've heard some other stories from some people around town today that the banks are saying, you approve it, it's spam, and it's not our problem. So I don't know what the difference between spam and fraud is if they're still getting into your bank account. Like they won't anymore because I've changed a lot of things. But I don't like, why are you pushing that back on me? Like, oh, so basically don't use your credit cards, don't use your debit card. Like what? Like
Well, did you give them did you give them a PIN number?
No, it was just the debit card part, like the number on the front of the card.
Like so it was a Visa,
and then obviously that's
Visa, like a one-time
it's a Visa
charge thing.
Well, yeah, no. So what it is the debit cards that I have a Visa on it. Okay, so you can buy stuff online. It's like a Visa card, only it's a debit Visa, so the money comes out instantly. Like if you were going to a point of sales and using it. Yeah. So when you do it online and you give them that number, then that's like a point of sale, and then they're into your account taking their money. So it's not like a Visa where it might take a little bit longer to go through. I don't know. I don't have a credit card.
I don't know. I don't understand why you aren't protected to some degree, because even if you charge something on a charge card or a credit card, if the goods aren't delivered, then and there's a paper trail on that, then you are entitled to a charge back.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
the credit
and
card
that's exactly
company
she said.
Charge it back.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not a credit card company. It's not like it's not like it was an American Express card or something like that. It's a debit Visa. So basically, they're saying you used your own money to pay for it, which I did because it was a debit card.
Yeah, it's the
but then they're saying you never got the.
It's like giving them
right.
cash.
So you never got the goods. Right, and then you never got the goods.
And I
so
never used a card like that.
Yeah.
I never
yeah, and you know what? I've changed everything now. There's no way they can get in. I mean, if they do, then they've actually hacked into the account. But yeah, after numerous hours of fighting with the bank, I was really, really frustrated. I can tell you that. So just buyer beware, and the banks will try to put it back on you. It's your fault. You ordered it. Well, how was I going to know that was going to happen, right?
Well,
how do you know?
Yeah, see, I don't use a card like that. I've never used one for a variety of reasons, and I guess we all need to educate ourselves on what the best way is to protect ourselves online, right? But I understand why people get scared when you hear stuff like that, but there are other things you can do to protect yourself if you're engaging in an online transaction. So that's very disappointing to hear.
Right. Well, it is. It was very disappointing. A lot of people are saying you should just go buy like a Visa, like a gift card kind of thing and use that, because then it's only a one-time use. But I don't even know. I don't use those cards, so I don't know how safe that is either.
That's like giving them cash too, because you don't really have chargeback provisions, I don't think, on a transaction like that.
No.
So no. Because if you use like a credit card, if you use a credit card, then that's on credit. And then if they don't deliver the goods, then the credit card company will initiate a chargeback on your behalf. And then they take the money back from the place where they took the money.
Right, exactly. But so I guess I just had, a lesson learned for me. I mean, what can you do, right? I mean, I'm not going to sit. I mean, you can only argue so long with them, and then you just think, well, I just give up, because you're also talking to someone that doesn't talk English very well, so it's 10 times harder to try to talk to them.
Well,
which doesn't help the situation.
I have a story that I think I'm going to share, as long as I get all of my information correct and straight, about a fraud operation. It's called spear phishing. And they targeted me, and they came after me in the past week. And I've got a whole bunch of information about that. So one of these nights, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, when I get it all laid out, I'm going to share that information with everybody here to show you the kinds of sophisticated things that are being done online to target you, to target all of us, right? To be aware, because this is really sophisticated. It could have, I saw it, and at first I was like, is this legit? I was suspicious. And so as soon as you're suspicious of anything, just err on the side of caution. But I played along for a couple of days with them, and they kept trying. They're still trying to get my information. So I'll show you what they do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, the W5 did a story on it. So if you go on to a website and you really want to check to make sure, because like you said, it's so sophisticated that even people that are high tech can get caught in it now, right? So they said what they do is, so when I ordered off of this site that said Marshalls, which is part of Winners and that, right? I thought it was that. They said go to Google, type in Marshalls, and then put the scam beside it, and it'll bring you up all the websites for them that are scam.
That's right.
So that's before you go ordering anything, do that.
Yes.
And then you'll know if it comes up scam, don't do it, because Anyways, Rick, I'll let you get on to your next caller if you have one, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Chris. Always a pleasure.
Okay.
See ya.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, here's Susie. Oh, no, I think it's Choosy.
Hey,
That's
Rick.
Susie. How are you tonight?
How you doing?
Excellent. How are you, sir?
You over your cold?
Yeah, it wasn't so much a cold. It was like a terrible headache, and I was not feeling well for a day, but I'm much better now, thanks.
Yeah, all kinds of geomagnetic storm energy coming in, and it's going to be worse on the 9th. So it's not over yet. I'm all right. I was kind of hoping more was going to happen this week, both with the Million Lawyer March and with Mr. Buckley coming back. Any word on what happened to him?
He went, they confirmed that he was going to do the interview with us, and then, but apparently he was going away. So he's gone, I think, into the mountains someplace for a week, and he might be back. I expect to hear back from him in the next day or two. So we should get.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, because and the Million Lawyer March was talking about comparing and contrasting Nuremberg with carnations, and that didn't happen that I'm aware of either. I was kind of like had my radar working to see if anything developed with that. But so far it's been kind of it seems like everybody's in recovery mode. but I figured I'd go ahead and call in and just wish everybody, fortitude to hang in there. And I'm really excited about the T-shirts.
Me too.
I know Dragon was also.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
something to
don't
look
have them
forward
yet,
to.
but I
I
expect
mean,
any day. He's had the order in there, and he's just really busy. The guy that does the shirts. So any day, any day.
anything at all to hang on to and look forward to is appreciated at this point. And that's basically all I wanted to say. I don't really have anything new. I'm kind of low affect today.
Yeah.
But things could be worse. Oh, I caught the English Boris Johnson Citizens Inquiry this morning after being up all night, and I'm sitting in front of my tablet, and that thing comes on.
Yep, I saw that too.
And I was like the only one in the chat, and man, I let them have it, Rick, and I checked, and it's the Telegraph, and they posted it with the chat, so you can see.
Oh, that's
told them
cool.
all.
Good for you.
It is kind of cool. And I was like, it was one of those synchronicity moments. But that's the thing, peeps. When we're feeling like a little low and disconnected, you never know what's right around the corner.
Well, they
so just do the best you can.
Yeah, give me your take on what you saw with Boris Johnson. They had him on the hot seat again today, explaining his role and the government's response to the pandemic. What did you make of that?
Oh, he's playing defense big time. And, I mean, you're not going to hear any of these folks mention the Jesuit order or the Knights of Malta. That's not going to happen. And, he's just wiggling like a worm up there. It's really, it's hard to watch. So I have to keep myself busy in the chat.
Yeah,
And,
he was squirming in
I'm
that
like
seat
looking at
today.
the,
I watched some of it this morning as well. Yeah.
What other platforms was it on besides the Telegraph? That's because I just jumped in the first thing I saw that was on. But there's a bunch of ladies sitting there looking at their laptops, and I'm thinking, I hope I'm getting through to a few of them.
That was a government committee he was testifying in front of, and I'm not exactly sure what all the logistics are surrounding that or the particulars, but I know that he'd been on the stand at least a couple of days. Might be back tomorrow. I'm not sure. Do you know if he's coming back tomorrow for more, or if they're moving on to somebody else?
I didn't catch. I know that this was day 2, and I didn't catch day 1, apparently. And I just, it was happenstance, synchronicity that I just slotted in right at the beginning of this day 2, and I was like, "What? Boris Johnson? Is this live?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Whoa!" And I was, after being up all night, I was like, man, I was in the zone. Didn't matter that I was tired or whatever.
Well,
and I don't know if he's coming back, but it's not looking good. And we really do need an actual authority for these people to answer to, because otherwise they just don't care. They don't care what they look like. They don't care what they sound like, because of their immunity. There's just no accountability, and they keep deferring back to their own redundancy. Well, so-and-so said, and this said, it's all the same alphabet agency redundancy.
So I do have some information about it right here.
They,
And it says that he says former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, sometimes angry during his testimony today, Britain's inquiry into the COVID-19 pandemic. I found that gave me hope, honestly, Choosy, because there's this guy who had all this power, and now he's being, forced to sit on sit in that chair and answer these tough questions now after the fact. So I think that's a positive thing. He defended himself against suggestions that his indifference and failure to heed the advice of scientists led to thousands of unnecessary deaths. Now, I'm not so sure that I find inspiration in that, because that sounds like it's kind of coming from the wrong side of the aisle here. But in the second day of sworn testimony, he rejected claims that he was prepared to let older people die to protect the economy, and that he was too slow to order a second national lockdown as infection rates began to rise in the autumn of 2020. So you see the pressure coming from my mind, the opposite direction from where I would be. It was like, why did you lock people down? But that's me.
Right. Yeah, a lot of it is hypocritical, partisan from both sides, which, again, it misses the mark, which is why we need actual, a body with the actual authority to charge and sentence. Otherwise, it's just posturing. And, but it is foreshadowing, Rick. It is a positive foreshadowing to see them in a compromised position where they have to be polite. Yes. And I think it is foreshadowing of what's to come. Let's keep in mind what Pascal said about Supra Siempre, the Space Force motto, and its metaphor for standing military legal justice system rescue. And that's what's proven in history to work in the absence of benevolent papacy. So we just hold on and hold out for that. And keep asking every day. That's all we can do. Just keep asking, and hope that what Pascal said is true. There are benevolent forces gathering up data, whether it's encrypted or not, and they're going to pull up a dragnet. I don't know what's taken them so long. They could have done it and saved a lot of lives. But better late than never. Got to look forward.
It's such a difficult time for us as human beings on this planet, because it says here, families of the bereaved, these are people who say they lost loved ones during the pandemic, expressed hostility after the inquiry today. Unmoved by Johnson's apologies, after Johnson testified, protesters outside shouted "murderer" and "shame on you" as he left the building and got into his awaiting car. Which shows that people on the other side are like, why didn't you lock down harder? Right? Blaming him for the deaths of people.
Yeah, the criticisms. Yeah, again, this is the other advice that I wanted to leave people with. Let's please just empty our heads of all of this political and otherwise division, the left and the right, the East and the West, all of these different ways that they have to split us is just making us crazy. We need to empty our heads of everything political, give ourselves permission to do that, because history proves there is no political solution for fascism. It's impossible for a whole list of reasons. So it's part of our process of differentiating between subjective and objective observation, what's opinion and what's actual fact, and sorting through the information to be able to just dismiss that's political, and that has no place, because peaceful revolution is not political, and there's a sequence to doing it. And we need to let go of politics to be able to let that happen without a mess during the transition. Otherwise, it's just going to be a bunch of bickering, people that want to debate about socialism versus communism, and they're very passionate about it, but they're missing the point that those economic isms are just smokescreen cover for Jesuit order fascism. Let's all settle on what the definition of that is, and that there's a whole multitude of smoke screens and a whole multitude of secret societies that comprise it, and to not be fooled and to not be sucked into their transitional space of conflict and misery. And, you know, we have the power to liberate each other from that. There's a couple of bigots in the chat tonight, and you got to give them tough love and homework. And when they come back around, they're a changed person. You know, it happens. So that's all we can do is just keep being the best educators every day, be responsible, and don't take any crap at the same time, right?
I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Don't play the game by their rules.
And no, we're not going to divide up. We're not going to play dodgeball when they're like, oh, you got to divide into teams. You're going to pick your friends and go on the other side of the gym. Then we're going to chuck balls at each other as hard as we can. No, we're not going to do that. Teach, stuff it, you know, but, you know, it, maybe that's a little extreme, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
It's just all narcissistic splitting.
You know what?
You
use words that are a little different than mine, but at the end of the day, you and I, we're kind of on the same page. Yep.
Oh, we absolutely are, Rick. You're my foot in the door with Canada, sir. There's nobody like you up there that I know of. There was nobody in the alternative media, and even the lawyers were slower to come around than you. But you know what? There are lawyers up there that are in the Million Lawyer March, and they got that level head going. So it's a matter of time, my friend. Maybe it wasn't this week, but maybe next week will be the big lucky week. Okay?
Okay, we'll keep working toward it.
Team Maverick.
Yes, sir.
All right. Much love, sir.
Love you back, man.
No fear.
None.
Take care.
Thank you, Choosy, and thank you to all the Mavericks, all the Maverick family. Thank to all of you. And thanks to the new viewers, too. And now that you're here, you're part of the Maverick family, too. And we are going to wrap it up for tonight. It is, we've been on now, for over 3 hours. So another successful transmission. And I'm so grateful for the time that you guys have spent with me here tonight. Let me bring this phone number down off the screen, and we'll bring this over here. Click on that, and with that, I will promise that I'll be back tomorrow night for another Maverick News broadcast. Love you guys. Catch you on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.